Hey everybody, welcome back to another Nerds in Squares podcast presented by BP Fun. I'm your host with the most, Captain Zeus, followed by our returning guests here, Lucky and Jacobite. We got ourselves a pretty, I want to say spicy episode for you guys today. I know it's been a minute, life's been lifing, but we can't stay away from here too long. We got an itch, and we're here to scratch. We're going to be talking about our spiciest hot takes and maybe just general opinions of each phase of the MCU, especially with Deadpool and Wolverine coming out very soon, hoping to launch the next chapter of the MCU. We want to go ahead and look back on the past and see what sucked. And we're going to start with phase one. Phase one, in case you guys for some reason just didn't know, or you just forgot because memory sucks. Phase one consisted of the first two Iron Man movies, the Incredible Hulk movie, which, yes, is MCU canon. We had the first Thor movie, Captain America, the First Avengers, and the first Avengers movie. Those were all in phase one. Obviously, we're just going to be talking about movies. We're not going to go into the shows until we get into the Disney Plus era of things. That's where we're going to go ahead and start things off. I'm going to actually not start it off this time. I'm going to give this to Lucky. I'm curious to see what your spiciest hot take or just general opinion of phase one is. You can talk about just a specific movie or the phase as a whole, doesn't matter.
The character lived and died with the first Hulk movie. That is my biggest hot take. The character lived and died through that. Listen, man, when Mark Ruffalo took over, I was cautiously optimistic. It didn't go well, and I think a lot of that has to do not necessarily with Mark, but rather the direction that Marvel was trying to take with the character. So I don't want to, hate on Mark too much because I do love his acting. If you haven't seen Shutter Island, go watch Shutter Island. He's a fantastic actor. But it really boils down to, I think, the whole he's a side character. We're going to give him the love interest, which we'll talk about later, but we're going to give him Black Widow as a love interest, but it's a really weird love interest thing that never goes anywhere. And now all of a sudden he's Professor Hulk, or he needs the Hulk smash. It was too much going on with Hulk, and he didn't have enough badass sequences outside of that standalone movie right there for me to be like, wow, I love Hulk. And I love the Hulk. He's big green man that beats the shit out of people, but he hasn't been that in the MCU. And that's kind of like, I think, a lot of people's gripe with what they did with Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. So, and then secondly, I didn't like the Iron Man movies all that much. I'm being completely honest. I love Robert Downey Jr. I think he grew on me to phase one, but I just felt like they were subpar. To me, it felt as though Iron Man 1 was like a 7, and Iron Man 2 was like a 5. A 4. Like it was not it to me. I didn't like the script of the second Iron Man film, and the villain was trash. It is what it is, man. Like, the villain was trash. They had a chance to do something really cool with that character going into a second movie, and they just kind of threw it away, which is a big thing with Marvel, which we'll talk about phase 2 later, and Thor's second movie specifically. But Iron Man 1 was solid, nothing crazy, and Iron Man 2 just didn't do it for me, so I wasn't that excited from Iron Man after phase 1. That's really my two biggest things. Avengers, great. Phase 1, I think, overall is solid. I don't want to take anything away from that, but it just didn't do it for me, man.
That was it's a lot to take in there. While I'm reeling in the shock of this revelation, Jacko, what about you? What is your hot takes and general spicy opinions of this first phase, or again, specific movie in general?
Well, all right. Well, the phase 1 is iconic as hell, just because it's the one that started it all, But I gonna half agree with Lucky when it comes to the Iron Man movies. You know what I mean? Like, let's say they were on top of the hill with number 1, right? They all kind of just dipped. You know what I mean? They didn't get better. And I think a lot of people will agree that the second one wasn't there. And now I love the actor of the villain, right? I love he's great in other movies. And he played a decent role for this villain. Like it was set up for him for this. Like he plays that kind of character in many movies. One movie specifically, Mickey Rourke is his name, right? Yes. He was in the movie The Wrestler. Like, holy crap, that movie was insane. I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, you see this is the behind the scenes of like an 80s wrestler, right? Played it really well. Anyways, this was an odd villain. And I think it kind of just didn't get that hype as it should have for Whiplash. And then the third one, I just, nah. Anyways, first one, though, it's iconic. It's great. I loved it. It's the introduction to Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. But I find it hard to rewatch it nowadays. But look, I've done a lot of rewatching of the whole MCU many times. I try to at least once a year. But nowadays, I'm going back to like Iron Man 1. I'm like, this is where we start. And I'm like, I don't know. I think I probably should skip it. I don't know, dude. I don't know. I love Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, but
you guys are breaking my heart over here, man.
I totally get what Lucky's saying. You know what I mean? Look, Iron Man, and then it goes straight down when it comes to number 2 and 3. It is what it is. Anyways, but I actually really enjoyed Edward Norton as the Incredible Hulk. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have seen more Edward Norton as the Incredible Hulk. I mean, he played it really well. And again, the movie wasn't great, but it did introduce, the Abomination, and then what was that guy who would have had the big head? The leader, would have got introduced at some point if the movie continued.
Fun fact, he is going to be in Captain America 4.
That's right. We did hear about that, which is going to be cool. So I guess there's going to be some sort of tie-in there, which is, I hope.
There's a lot of Hulk villains in Captain America 4, I've noticed. But we'll get to that later.
There is, isn't there?
Yeah.
Thor 1. Okay, let's just move on to this one. All right.
I'm excited to hear what you say.
Look, it's good, but Thor is way too blonde. And it distracts the fucking shit out of me the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I think they obviously realized that going into the rest of the Thor movies, because
they bleached his eyebrows.
His eyebrows were the worst part of the movie. I'm sorry if the movie was, something everybody, I don't know if they liked or not liked, but the eyebrows were the worst part of the movie for me. And the villain, I don't know. It just seemed like a lackluster fight. And I get it's an introduction to Thor, but I don't think it gave a big enough fight for Thor. Like the being casted out of his home and stuff in Asgard, and trying to find his way back and trying to pick up Mjolnir. I thought that was pretty cool. It showed that he's part human, you know what I mean? He's not just a god of thunder, you know what I mean? And so it was a nice introduction, but I found it kind of weak, you know what I mean? Other than that, though, I mean, Phase 1 is iconic, you know what I mean? It's what led everything up to right now. Let's just say it led everything up to the next phase.
Okay, well, so I honestly didn't have that much gripe with Phase 1. I'm not going to lie. I think that was the most enjoyable phase for me. I freaking loved Iron Man. I could rewatch that movie anytime. It was so good. It's such a good movie, and not only is it the first MCU movie, it's the first Iron Man movie. It's the first time RDJ is coming onto that redemption arc, if you will, from his past. It's just like a lot of firsts here. Jon Favreau directing, does a fantastic job, and we all know how great of a director he is. And honestly, I still enjoyed the second Iron Man. I can see why some people may not like the villain too much, Whiplash, because he was an alright villain. He was just there for the big bad fights, but he wasn't the only villain. We also had Army Hammer, the Hammer Industries, I'm sorry. We had Hammer Industries being in there as an antagonist, and I think the main point of the villain of the movie wasn't necessarily I'm freaking getting tongue twisted about the villains. It was about Tony kind of not dying, that part, because he couldn't figure out why he was burning through all those chips so quickly, and two, kind of the Avengers Initiative a little bit, kind of just him getting his act together, which was also nice, and it was just a lot of good things about that movie. Incredible Hulk, I can't say this enough. It is in my top 5, actually top 3 Marvel movies of all time. I love that movie. Abomination was great. Edward Norton as Hulk was fantastic. The Red Hulk kind of tease, I feel, with just Thunderbolt Ross being just a menace, and even the relationship between Bruce and Betty was like so good. Like, that's some of the best romance we've seen in any MCU movies, if I'm being completely honest. And yeah, it's a huge bummer that we didn't get that for the rest of the MCU. And I like Mark Ruffalo as an actor in some other roles. I don't think he's like a fantastic actor or anything. He's basically the same in every single movie, in my opinion, but sometimes it just fits. And in this case, it wasn't it. Him as Hulk was not it. Sure, in Avengers, Hulk was okay, and that's really the only time we get to see him do Hulk-like things, but it was not it for me, dude. Not at all. Captain America, Thor, they're good movies. They're good movies. I could watch them, be enjoyed. I don't have to think too much about it. I thought the first phase overall was pretty good. I didn't have too many gripes about it, if I'm being honest, except for blonde eyebrowed Thor. That's kind of my biggest gripe. That and the Hulk recast in the Avengers. Other than that, I actually don't have any hot takes on phase 1. I'm surprised you guys were the ones with the hot takes this time. That threw me off. Not gonna lie.
I think for me, when it comes to I think over the years, I've just found things to pick on. You know what I mean? I think walking into this for the first time, I reiterate why I say they're iconic as hell. You know what I mean? Because walking into these movies for the first time, it's like these movies blew me away. You know what I mean? At first, because it was like, this is Iron Man come to life. This is Captain America finally coming to life. This is, Thor. This is all of them coming to life and starting what we know of the Avengers, right? I think over the years, rewatching, doing my little rewatch, my run through the whole fucking thing, it's even longer now, so it's hard to get through. But you find little things to pick on about, right? And Thor's eyebrows, most people would probably say, who cares? You know what I mean? But they're bright as hell, and you can't get past them, They're
shining bright like diamonds.
Right. But no, I agree with a lot of things you've said as well, Zeus. Is just Captain America. I will say, and now I'm going to say this before we get into the rest of them. Yeah. Captain America, the trilogies of Captain America, I think are probably one of my favorites when it comes to breaking down the trilogies of who's got 3 movies. Mm-hmm. Captain America is in my top 1 for sure, and I love his movies. But again, you're right. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of good things about Iron Man. There's a lot of good things about all of them. You know what I mean? But we like to nitpick just a tiny bit. And
I get it. Like phase 1's been around for so long. After rewatching it, you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna find stuff to nitpick.
Yeah.
We're gonna, before Lucky says anything, we're gonna move on to phase 2 because I know he's gonna say something that's gonna piss me off. I got you, man. No, I'm kidding. But for phase 2, our next segment here consisted of Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, and Avengers: Age of Ultron. This is what consisted of phase 2, which we'll get into. Jacko, we'll start with you here. What did you think about phase 2 of the MCU. Hot takes, spicy opinions.
Okay.
What do you got?
Phase 2's got a couple of my favorites.
Okay.
All right. Winter Soldier. I love Winter Soldier. It's
Number
in my
one.
top 5 MCU movies for sure.
Number one.
Absolutely. Guardians of the Galaxy, man. You know, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and again, if you're talking about 3 movies, Guardians of the Galaxy, that's the top for sure. But Iron Man 3, I'll start off with that one. I don't know. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. I mean, I liked seeing all these different Iron Man suits. I liked the relationship he had with the little kid who I thought would have been Ironheart of some sort.
Iron Lad.
Sorry, Iron Lad. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about that one. But okay, so Thor, The Dark World. Okay. At the beginning, this movie was garbage. This movie was trash, right? I can't believe they went from, they fixed Thor. They didn't fix the movie. But I will say, though, after years of dodging the movie, I watched it for a second time, and I went, it's really not as bad as I thought it was the first time around. And I think that's going to be a lot of different movies when it comes to, giving the MCU a rewatch and walking through it again, is how much we hated it at first. I thought there was a lot of good action scenes. I mean, I'm not big a fan of the elves, the demon elves, whatever the hell they were. I'm not going to be good with the terminology of these things, but demon elves. I'm not a big fan of, that they were the big part of this movie, but I liked, there was a lot of action scenes that I enjoyed in it. Let's just say it was better than I thought it was. You know what I mean? In the second time around. Okay. Age of Ultron. It's again one of my favorites. I think Ultron is probably one of my favorite villains. I wish I saw more of him, but I think seeing him in What If, kind of gave me that last little bit that I wanted, that at least what I thought I wanted. And then Ant-Man. I thought Ant-Man was humorous. I thought it was, the first one was good. It was humorous. It was funny. It's Paul Rudd, introducing Paul Rudd to the MCU. We know him from a lot of other movies, which he's been really funny in. It's just, hard to take Ant-Man seriously, but it was a good family, fun, laughable movie. But yeah, Winter Soldier, I think is for me is the top one on there for sure. I think that's what it changed a lot. But yeah, that's it for me, really.
Man, not many spicy, a little spicy opinion there with the Thor: The Dark World. A little bit of a spicy one there. Not too bad. Didn't see that coming, to be honest. I know Lucky has something built up over there. What do you got for us, Lucky? What you got for us for Phase 2?
Yeah, essentially, Age of Ultron sucked in my opinion. And here's why. And I'll action scene wise, fantastic. The introduction of Scarlet Witch, fantastic. We get Ultron, which is one of my all-time favorite Marvel villains, whatever. Fantastic. My problem was he wasn't in it enough, number one. And number two, this is where the MCU started to kill off bad guys for no reason. It's just like, the fact we haven't seen Ultron in any other MCU project outside of What If is frustrating, because he's such a big, viable villain that you can have. And they shoved Loki to the side after the first Avengers movie, right? They kept him around so that they could continue to do character building on him. Why can't we say the same for Ultron? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we? Ultron is such a big, fundamental villain that they had him in the finale for What If as being Doctor Strange plus Ultron plus, he was like this massive threat to not only just regular Avengers, but the whole grand scope of like a universe, right? And I feel like killing him off was kind of whatever. And that's what kind of did it in for me, was like 90% of that movie, solid. The last 10% of that movie, trash. Like, in my opinion, I like the action sequences. The fact that Vision was able to kill him so easily doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Like, Vision comes in and it's like, oh, it's Ultron versus Vision. Vision is like my least favorite Marvel character. He's kind of like Martian Manhunter from the OG animated thing, where like, he gets his ass beat, but he does this like really cool thing once in a blue moon. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, that's cool. That's but like 90% of it is him getting absolutely dog walked by whoever he fights, and it's like, to me, that's frustrating, right? Second hot take: I don't like any of the Ant-Man movies. I think Paul Rudd could have been a dope cashier. I don't think he's Ant-Man. To me, Ant-Man is, as a character, just really weak, man. Like, he is the jester of the Avengers, bro. There's a reason why he's in all the promo for Deadpool x Wolverine, and it's like his skull, basically, and the trailer and everything. That's because they're poking fun at him, right? Like, it's just, to me, Paul Rudd is a fantastic actor. He's a great comedian. Ant-Man in general is like, it's a joke to me. That's just what it is. It's Ant-Man as a character is a joke to me. What else could we talk about?
MCU Ant-Man or Ant-Man as a whole?
I mean, both. Like, both. Both of them kind of low-key are trash, in my opinion. We'll get into some of the positives, though, really quick. Winter Soldier, fantastic. Absolutely love Winter Soldier. I love what they did with his character, even in the show, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Fantastic. I love the development. I love everything about that film. The Captain America trilogies, top two for me. First one being Guardians of the Galaxy. The Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, everybody knows that. The fact that we had better CGI in Guardians of the Galaxy, the original Guardians of the Galaxy, than we did for Thor: Love and Thunder, is absolutely terrifying to me. Those were years separated. Kevin Feige, you're a broke bitch. You are a broke bitch. The fact that Guardians of the Galaxy were able to take us on a journey across the galaxy to different planetary systems, and it looked so beautiful, and it looked like crazy sick, but we can't get like a solid face of this child that Thor's supposed to be like helping, is absolutely sadistic to me, bro. It's absolutely sadistic. They like ran out of budget halfway through the movie, but we'll talk about that later. Overall, phase 2 was like a 6 to me, bro. I mean, it was like a 6. It was saved by Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was saved by the Winter Soldier, in my opinion. That's just me. Go ahead, Zeus.
Man, look at you.
You look like you got something.
You're just bringing in the hot takes. You were prepared for this podcast. I can tell. Wow. Some hot take I would say is I enjoyed Thor: The Dark World. I'm not going to lie. I think, yes, it was not as good as it could have been, but I think it had so much potential. I thought the Dark Elves were such a cool freaking, not only antagonist, but addition to the Thor lore. You know, that side of the cosmos. I thought it was dope. The acting for them was awesome. Visually, it looked great. We saw Loki dealing with, like, depression, basically. And him and Thor, for a little bit, having to deal with the loss of their mom. Like, there's a lot of seriousness in this movie, and I think that's something that we don't see, not only for Thor, but just the rest of the MCU, was that seriousness. And that's one thing I loved about this phase as a whole. It's actually one of my favorite phases because of how serious it is. Thor: The Dark World, The Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron, and even Iron Man 3 all had very serious messages and tones. Even Iron Man 3, I was enjoying. until we learned that the Mandarin wasn't the Mandarin. Like, I would have been fine if Trevor was the actual. I know that's the character's name, the actor. The character who's the actor, but not the actor playing the character. Weird. I know him being white and the Mandarin not being white. I was like, okay, he's doing such a good job, I can let it slide. And the way it was going up until that point was fantastic. I was like, this movie is going so good. And then we realized it's all about that human genetic experimentation, and he's not actually the Mandarin. There is no Mandarin, but Shang-Chi basically saved it, and so did the spin-off, like, short film of Trevor in prison. That one also saved it, about how the Mandarin's actually real. I thought that was still cool, but the ending of Iron Man 3 was garbage. Thor: The Dark World ending, like, the actual last 10 minutes could have been better, but as a whole, I kind of think that movie's overhated. It's not in my top 10, for sure, but it's still an enjoyable movie. Winter Soldier, favorite. I don't shut up about that movie. I love it. From the visuals, from the action scene, from the character development, the story, even the soundtrack. Like, the Russo brothers peaked with that movie. I cannot state that enough. It was so good. And we got Sam Wilson, Falcon. Anthony Mackie as Falcon was probably one of the best casting decisions they have done in such a long time. Ant-Man I actually enjoyed Ant-Man. I was kind of bummed that we didn't start off with Hank Pym, but I know why we didn't, because he's nothing but an alcoholic, abusive piece of crap. So it's kind of like, I see why they didn't, but it's kind of a bummer, Serious stuff could deal with it. But, I mean, I'm cool with Ant-Man 2, or Ant-Man version 2, I thought as a whole, Age of Ultron I still enjoyed. I thought it was so cool, especially like the first 75% of it, because Ultron's one of my faves. We got Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, mind you. Everyone wants to forget Quicksilver was in there. I thought Quicksilver, Aaron David Johnson, fantastic as Quicksilver. I was actually pissed that they killed him in there. And that movie helped, with the help of Winter Soldier, also solidified how important Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is to the canon of the MCU, by the way, because Nick Fury got that helicarrier that Phil Coulson was working on in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., by the way. So, how you gonna do that? Huh, Kevin Feige? How you gonna make that make sense? Anyways. But yeah, I mean, I was bummed that they killed Ultron, but to be fair, I don't think Ultron actually is dead. I think he's just in hiding, because there's rumors he's gonna return in the Vision Quest series. So, it's a high possibility. But, honestly, as a whole, I actually really enjoyed Phase 2. I thought it was one of the better phases of the MCU. But I could see where Lucky was saying it's like the start of the downfall. Which, in a way, it is, but I don't think it is. I think, and this is a good transition, it's actually Phase 3. I think that is the start of the downfall for the MCU. Because Phase 3 consists of Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther. Then we have Avengers Infinity War. We get Ant-Man and the Wasp in there, Captain Marvel, Endgame, and then Spider-Man Far From Home. That's part of Phase 3 for the most part. I'll start. Do you guys have anything else to say about Phase 2? Otherwise, I can continue with Phase 3 here. Good? Okay. So I'm actually I'll start Phase 3 here, since perfect segue. I did not like Civil War one bit. I thought this movie, first of all, calling it Civil War bummed me out, because the Civil War comics is phenomenal. Phenomenal comic series. Some of the most intense storytelling that Marvel's done. And we got literally the wishlist version of that in this movie. It was so freaking bad. And yeah, it was cool to see these characters fight off. But to be fair, there wasn't much of a build-up for it. The only ones that really had any true reason was Captain America and Iron Man. Those were like the literal only reasons. That's because they were trying to fight over the Winter Soldier. That had nothing to do with the Accords. Like, that was just an excuse. Black Panther and being in there, I mean, cool, we got Black Panther. Nothing wrong with the character, nothing wrong with the actor, nothing wrong with the introduction. I just thought it was lazy. Like, it was just a lazy segue to get him into the MCU and to get him his own movie. And the CGI in that movie, that's the start of the CGI issue, because that movie had some of the worst CGI of that phase. and it was so obvious, especially the airport scene. It was just so bad. And we got some cool fight scenes in there for sure. And sure, we got to see Spider-Man make his MCU debut, but that movie sucked. Honestly, it is not one of my favorites. It's actually a disappointing conclusion to the Steve Rogers Captain America trilogy. And then Doctor Strange, that's also another issue I had, because the Ancient One was a freaking bald white lady. That pisses me off. I never shut up about it. It's supposed to be a wise Asian man with hair. That's how he's been depicted. The Ancient One, you know? But no, it's a bald freaking white lady. Make it make sense. And then I don't know if this was like an old storyline or something they had in the comics where the Ancient One's actually using the evil powers of Dormammu. But for some reason, this version of the Ancient One is, which makes it seem like, and I know this is probably a stretch, but it makes it seem like those with power, like these good, wise people aren't wise and good. They're actually evil. It's like a trend that we start to kind of see because people start to turn evil from here on that were actually good, i.e. Mordo. But Mordo's character does that, and I love the guy that's playing Mordo. But it's like kind of a trend where it's like good guys are bad. It's like, it's not, no. But that's like some of the issues I had with it. And the movie itself was not that cool. Visually, it was dope. Like, visually, it was a trip. Take that while you're high, forget about it. But like, it just storyline-wise, it's just not that entertaining. It's very mid. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I actually had no issues with the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. Just not gonna lie. I mean, the first one was meh, but it was enjoyable. And then they kind of just go up from there, to be honest. Like, they're all good movies. Thor Ragnarok is funny, for sure. And we saw some really cool sequences in there, for sure. But it's a huge disrespect to Thor and just the title of Ragnarok to make this movie a joke. Like this, like I said earlier, is where we start to see Thor not be serious anymore. He's literally just becoming the joke of the MCU. And I know Lucky's going to go into this super hardcore, especially when we get to Love and Thunder. But we had Planet Hulk. We had the potential to do Planet Hulk. And they took that amazing storyline. I've seen the animated movie, mind you. Animated movie is freaking fantastic. All you had to do was just do that. Maybe take out some bits here and there that could have been considered filler and add that into this movie or literally any other movie. Heck, this should have been an Avengers movie, if I'm being honest. But instead, they cut out 95% of that storyline to the fact where he's only just a gladiator here. And then that's it. And the movie sucked. The movie was just a joke. Not a fan of it. Also not a fan of Black Panther. Not the character, not the actor, the movie. The first movie sucked. I thought Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, fantastic casting. Could not have casted that any better. Visuals were not bad either. Soundtrack, I'll be honest, they put way too many mainstream artists in there I like the original, I like the score. I don't like the soundtrack. How about that? I like the score for Black Panther. I don't like the soundtrack. Because, except for that one scene where they were in South Korea, I was like, I don't know what this song is, but it freaking hits. But that was about it. But Black Panther as a whole, that movie was not good. And everyone hates me for it. Like, they dog on me so much. I saw this movie in theaters. I was hyped. I was so hyped to see this movie. Yes, I was like one of the only non-super dark black person in that theater to see that movie. Like, yeah, turn around, it's just a wave of black. But anyways, that movie just was not that good. Everyone just talks about how good it was. And I'm like, honestly, Killmonger's reasoning for doing what he's doing doesn't make much sense. It really doesn't. And I just felt like it was lazy. I just felt like it was a lazy movie. And this phase is kind of where I see a lot of lazy writing, because Civil War, there's a lot of that moments in there. Thor Ragnarok, we see that in there. We see that in this movie. And we also see it in Spider-Man. The whole Spider-Man MCU trilogy is garbage. I'm not gonna lie. Not only do you have fantastic actors playing villains, and they're doing a fantastic job. Nothing wrong with the actors, nothing wrong with the villain. And Tom Holland's decent. Like, he's not a bad Spider-Man, right? He's not a bad Spider-Man. But the main story, which is the Peter Parker story, is garbage. It literally is boring as frick. And there's I'm so annoyed just watching this. And Also, the fact that we have Zendaya as MJ is the stupidest thing ever. Pisses me off. I didn't even like Mary Jane to begin with. I don't even like Zendaya either as an actress. Like having that combination, and the fact that they were trying to say, no, this isn't Mary Jane, but then the third movie, they're like, no, it's Mary Jane. I'm like, you guys, can I slap you? Can I just slap you, Sony? I know Sony's the reason why these trilogy sucks. Sony doesn't know what to do with the Spider-Man movies. Look at their Sony Marvel universe of Spider-Man characters. Infinity War was good, right? We all can agree Infinity War was fantastic. Really good movie, aside for a couple of CGI moments. Ant-Man the Wasp was absolute dog water. Visually, storyline-wise, was just dog water. Like, there was a lot of character potential in there with, like, not necessarily Goliath, but the first Goliath, I think, and Ghost. I like the potential that we could have had with the characters. It just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. That movie sucked. Captain Marvel sucked. That movie was just garbage. Brie Larson sucks. That movie just sucked. Visually, it also sucked. Endgame was good. I loved Endgame, not gonna lie. Like, that was fantastic. But then we get to Spider-Man Far From Home, and that movie sucked. Even though Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio is freaking fantastic, and I thought that was the best villain we've seen all phase, besides Thanos, I mean, right? But he was just so good, and I'm like, the fact that they killed him off was stupid. He should be alive, just hiding somewhere, doing what he's doing. Like, it goes to what Lucky said earlier, where this is the trend of every villain is just killed off. And I'm like, no, some of these villains are reoccurring and have dramatic impacts, like Mysterio. If you follow the Old Man Logan storyline, Mysterio makes Wolverine think that the X-Men were all X-Men villains and has Wolverine kill them all. How you gonna do that? He dead. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, dude, this phase was freaking... Oh, it pissed me off. First watch, I know everyone's like, oh, ecstatic, hype, Marvel, ooh. But I'm like, nah, trash, bro. Besides like 3 or 4 movies, trash. Literally, that dumpster over there, trash. That's what it is. It's a trash can inside of a dumpster. Jacko, what do you got?
Oh man, I mean, thanks for your thoughts, Zeus.
What I'm here for.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said hot take, right? So I mean, yeah, we whole phase 3, just throw it out. All right, I'm not gonna go through them all, but I love Civil War. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, I loved the back and forth between, what's right and wrong when it comes to Iron Man and Captain America. I loved how they, I'm not a big fan of bringing politics in, but this was kind of the introduction to the politics of it all. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are killing people while you're saving the world. Should we be part of the government? You know what I mean? It's just, these are obviously questions that, needed to be brought up. This is what's happening behind the scenes of being a superhero. You're destructing shit while you're being a superhero. You know what I mean? And it's where do you belong on which side? Team America. I think it was just an interesting tactic to kind of get you to pick sides. You know what I mean? And then to get to see who is teaming up with who. You know what I mean? I think it was a big fan service movie for sure. And I think, again, I got suckered into it for sure because I loved it. I mean, the fight scene between Iron Man and Captain America I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I'm glad it's over. You know what I mean? Like, but again, you get introduced to, Black Panther as well coming in, right? And this is the one where the good guys turned evil, right? The whole shield thing or whatever, but yeah.
Well, that was Winter Soldier's where the shield was Hydra. That was Winter Soldier.
That's right. That was that one. That's right. Yeah. Anyways, it was a great movie. I liked it anyways. Doctor Strange. I've never really been a fan of Doctor Strange, to be honest. The character in general. Movie was good. But again, I can't be invested if I'm just not interested in the character. Cool character. I mean, the actor played him very well, I believe. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with the character. I just wasn't interested in the movie. You know, I wasn't interested in the story they wanted to tell. You know, it was cool, you know, the car crash, and, you know, he spent years trying to, you know, get his hands to work again. You know what I mean? Like, it was cool to see the struggle, you know what I mean? And, you know, Rachel McAdams is in it. You know, that's probably the best part, to be honest. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy, again, you know, Lucky said it, right? Guardians of the Galaxy, the trilogy, I think it's a masterpiece. You know what I mean? It's probably one of the greatest things that's come from the MCU. Spider-Man, I get what you're saying, Zeus. I get what you're saying. I think the first one, Homecoming, is the worst one, to be completely honest. I like how Vulture was in it and stuff, but again, I don't think it wasn't like an epic movie. And I don't know. I feel like they kind of just jumped right in here with Spider-Man. They didn't even bother. There's no origin story now, and I hate getting too many origins, but I feel like we hadn't gotten enough origins at that point. Especially, you know, we're coming off of 2, obviously, but you know, we got Andrew Garfield's. I think his story was completely different than, you know, Tobey Maguire's. You know what I mean? These are 2 different perceptions on Spider-Man. You know what I mean? 2 different versions. You know what I mean? And I would have just liked to be more invested in the Tom Holland Spider-Man at first, rather than, you know, it just being thrown at us just because he made an appearance in Civil War. You know, I can't remember her name, but you know, Aunt May's hot as hell, so that was a good one. You know, again, another reason why that movie was good.
Only reason people were buying tickets.
Yeah, and the funny back and forth between Tony Stark and Aunt May, right? You know, I mean, you're just like, yeah, you should do her. Just piss off Peter Parker. Okay, so here we go. Ragnarok, I think, is the peak. Is the peak for Thor. I think it's the best version of Thor when it comes to what we've seen already. Like you said, though, let's wait until we get to Love and Thunder, though, because I think Thor and Hulk got the fucking worst end of the sticks in the MCU. They really have. And these guys are the toughest motherfuckers in the MCU, and they got the shit end of the stick out of everybody. Because, dude, like, Thor's crazy cool, dude, and like, he's something out of the MCU that actually exists in the world that people believe in. You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole mythology of this whole thing. It's not just some character thought up. You know what I mean? But, you know, I thought it was fucking hilarious. You know what I mean? I thought it was really good, and I get when we get down to the next one, it feels like he's just become a big joke. But I really enjoyed this one. You know what I mean? We go from Thor 1 and Thor 2 being super fucking serious, and I think they just wanted to see a lighter side to him. You know what I mean? So I think it was a nice way to see a funny side to him. If we only knew what was coming next, maybe we wouldn't have agreed to this. But
the foreshadow.
Yeah, I loved Ragnarok. But again, if you gave me a clue about what happens next, I would have said, please just don't. It's fine. I get it. Just
end it here.
Yeah, Black Panther, I thought it was cool. You know what I mean? It was pretty cool. You know, Killmonger, I think, was the best part of that movie. He should have been king. But you know, I love the Black Panther character. I do, and you know, the actor as well. I thought he portrayed Black Panther really fucking well.
R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, absolutely. He played it really well. Infinity War, again, I feel like this is where we peak for the MCU, or at least we've hit the top. Right? We know what comes next. But yeah, Infinity War was the top of the mountain. It was the top of the mountain. Everybody's coming together. We finally get, you know, Thanos being the big baddie he is. It's emotional too. The ending. I think we were talking earlier before stream, or before the recording of, just what movies make you emotional. What movies, if they can make you cry or feel like you need to shed a tear. Close enough, Zeus, right? I mean, just the feeling, right?
Don't get me wrong. That movie, when I watched it for the first time, I was like,
dude, yeah, that ending though, when you see everybody getting wiped out, you're like, I want a ball. I mean, I just spent years watching all this, and you're telling me they're all dead? You can't do this. The worst one, I think, was Spider-Man and Tony Stark.
So,
I mean, he was just holding the poor boy. What are you doing to me, Blue? And
Tom did such a good job.
That one was good. Ant-Man and Wasp. I mean, I'm okay with not watching it ever again. Evangeline Lilly, again, she's the best part, but not really the character, but she's hot as hell. Captain America.
Captain Marvel.
We're moving on to Avengers Endgame. Look. Okay, so Captain Marvel. I've watched it. It is what it is. I feel like it was an awkward placement into the MCU as well. It didn't really fit into where everything was going. I don't know. Again, I wish I was more of a comic guy. I wish I grew up reading these comics so I could see the difference between how it was written, how it was created, and then how it got brought to life. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, I feel like my opinions would be completely different to a certain extent. But that's my downfall of being a nerd is I didn't grow up fucking reading. But I watched it for a second time, and I may have watched it halfway through for a third playthrough of the MCU, whatever. And it's okay. It's okay. I shit on it the first time. I watch it. It's okay the second time, but that's about it. It's honestly, I try to make it one of the first ones I watch, so I don't have to watch it ever again. Because I will skip it if I get to that point. Endgame. It's a great movie, but the ending is the best part. I could skip the filler of the beginning. The big battle at the end is the only thing that made that movie great. And at first, I'm like, oh man, this movie's fucking amazing. It's so good. I'm so hyped for it. I can't. My mind is blown. But then after a while goes by, and you're like, why did we watch the beginning? You know what I mean? I feel like the beginning was just, you see everybody come together. There was some comical relief. And then, you're just waiting for this whole thing to happen, which I think, yeah, again, the ending is the best. Far From Home. I did go through them all, didn't I? Spider-Man.
I was literally going to say, you said you weren't going to, but you did.
I wasn't going to, but then I started reading them, and I'm like, I got to say something, at least something about each one of them. But yeah, Mysterio, the best part of this. I enjoyed the Spider-Man franchise, or at least these Tom Holland Spider-Mans. I think he played a really good, young Spider-Man. Now we're talking about, I feel like Tom Holland is younger than both of the other Spider-Mans we got. You know what I mean? Like, this guy is a child. You know what I mean? There's no adult in this kid whatsoever. You know what I mean? Adolescent as hell. And I think when I think about it, that and the different tiers of age of how I see these Spider-Men, that's how I enjoy them. You know what I mean? It's just that the kid version, right? This is the cartoon Spider-Man, Tom Holland. You know what I mean? The one you see on Disney, the little cartoon one, right? And he's hanging out with Miles and Gwen. It's child fun, right? But again, Mysterio, the best part of this. You know what I mean? I think he was a great villain. Great villain. Yeah. This phase, I get what you're saying, Zeus. Like I said at the beginning, Infinity War was the peak of the mountain. You know what I mean? And then it just kind of took a little slope from there. And I don't know if we've recovered from it.
Oh, we'll get to that. We will definitely.
But anyways, Lucky, it's your turn. I know I spewed a bit, but
I mean, this is the time to spew. Let's be honest. This is our time to spew because Lucky's about to.
Spew on us, Lucky. Spew all over me. Let's go.
At least on him. Don't do it on me, man. I'm not in the water zone.
I'll take the load for Zeus.
You take it. Take it for the team. Take it for the team. I'll go upstairs.
Phase 3.
Oh shit! Took his glasses off.
Phase 3 was both the best of Marvel and the worst of Marvel at the same fucking time. Now let's get into this a little bit, right? Because what I mean by this is I loved Thor Ragnarok, number one. Thor Ragnarok, let's start with the positives, right? As somebody who enjoys a lot of pagan literature and I love a lot of like Norse mythology and stuff like that, I loved seeing Hel. I loved Fenrir. You know what I mean? I loved getting to see. We talk about Hulk. We've already hit on Hulk a lot, but we got to see a more brutal version of Hulk throughout the like. It did a lot with it, and I loved kind of seeing a deeper version of Thor from Chris Hemsworth than we've seen in the past. You know, the end of Ragnarok kind of losing everybody and the struggles of everything mounting on his shoulders was really something to kind of see. Diving into some of the other ones, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, once again, I loved kind of the story of it focused on Star-Lord and his relationship with Zoe Saldana's character. It also focused on a father-son relationship where, you know, I'm sure many young males and teenage kids and everybody can kind of attest to this. Is a big thing growing up as a young male is your father's approval. And you see a lot of that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is, you know, his father is not a good person, but yet Star-Lord is still kind of fighting for his father's respect and his father's love throughout that film and refusing to believe like he's this terrible of a person, right? And this terrible of an entity. And that's kind of like some of the best of Marvel, I think, that they've done story-wise. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as well. The story in that's fantastic with Rocket. But then we get into stuff like, I mean, Spider-Man. Spider-Man, to me, the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy it's oversaturation. That's what that is. We have Spider-Man video games. We have the Miles Morales, movies. We have Andrew Garfield. We have Tobey Maguire. Now we have Tom Holland. But we don't have any backstory on Tom Holland. He's already like BFFs with Tony Stark by the time we meet him, and he's getting new suits, and it's this, that, the other, and he's already thrown into this whole team dynamic, but he's just a kid. And they don't hit on that. You know what I mean? They're just like, yeah, he's this young dude who's able to do this crazy shit and blah, 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 blah. Like, don't tell me that the MCU Spider-Man is a good Spider-Man, because in my opinion, it's not. It has nothing to do with Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland's a good actor. I think his background in acrobatics and dance makes for something that is pretty unique for a Spider-Man character because he's actually able to do his stunts. That's something kind of cool, and he acts as though he is a young kid. And the only time we get to see that is, not Endgame. What? I'm blanking.
Infinity War.
I'm blanking. Infinity War. Yeah, the only time we get to see that kind of like childlike fear, or just like him being able to step out of that for a second, is literally when he's quote unquote dying, right? In Infinity War, where he's like, "Mr. Stark, I'm scared." Like, that is a teenage boy who is dealing with something that is beyond what he ever signed up for, with the powers, without the powers. That's like the only time we get to see him just be a kid, and it's a very quick like, I'm scared. You know what I mean? Which is heartbreaking. Obviously, that's something that was the hardest one, to your point, Jacko. But then we get into the trash. And Black Panther. I did enjoy Black Panther. K-Dot, you won the beef with Drake. They not like us. You know what I'm saying? Like, they not like us. But I love that movie. I liked Michael B. Jordan in the film. I thought he brought something to Killmonger. And A lot of the deep under messaging of that film I really enjoyed. But like I said, let's get to the trash. Endgame. It's trash, in my opinion. And I'm tired of hiding it. Because here's my thing, and I'll explain it. Right? Because I feel like I owe you guys sitting there watching at home an explanation. Basically, Endgame took a lot of the ramifications away, right, of what happened in Infinity War. Even the end battle, which was super cool. Don't get me wrong. I love the end battle, the CGI, everybody coming out of the portals, fantastic. But at the same time, that's not the same Thanos, guys. Like, the Thanos that made such an impact in all of our favorite characters' life from Infinity War is dead. He died at the beginning of Endgame. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have that same attachment, I feel like, as the other Thanos did. They went back in time and you know what I mean? They're going for the stones and they're doing this whole crazy time travel stuff. It's a different Thanos. Same objective, sure, that's fine. But that Thanos, the guy in the beginning, who Thor went for the head finally or whatever, that's the one who meant so much to all those fans that were watching that movie in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the time to do secret invasion character swap types. You know what I mean? That's not the time to swap out Thanoses. You know? And then secondly, what I'll say is they didn't take it seriously, I feel like, what happened in Infinity War. They made a very serious proclamation at the end of Infinity War, where half of the entire universe was snapped out of existence. Everybody came back. You want to make shit deep, you know what I mean? You want to make people feel something, only 25% come back. You know what I mean? Maybe some of your favorite characters really did die, and that's it. You know, and like, it bugs me when I see this from Marvel, because this was something that I've been a fan of for so long, and I've seen it build for so long. So when we get to Endgame, it's like, okay, I'm expecting the finale of all of this. You know what I mean? I'm expecting the gravity of all of it. And the ending, of course, you feel for Tony Stark and you feel for Cap and everything. Yeah, fine, cool. But like, those were kind of their own decisions. You know what I mean? That like led to them leaving or dying. You know, like it was stuff that they decided. You know what I mean? As a fan, I want to see you really pull at somebody's heartstrings. I want to see, dude, you know, T'Challa, he's gone. You know what I mean? You got one movie of him, now he's gone. Or, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, Captain Marvel, gone. Or somebody that we're just getting to know, or somebody that we have known is gone for good. Like, that's it. And, like, they also did Thor dirty as hell too. They basically made a mockery of men's mental health with Thor, because they just put a fat suit on him. I was like, oh, like, let's make it to where, since he lost everybody, you know what I mean? Let's just put him in a corner where he doesn't want to help and he's drunk and he's playing video games all the time. The dude is going through a crisis, mind you. At the end of Ragnarok, he lost everything. Everything. And you turn it into this whole meme thing with Fortnite, where they come and seek him out, and he's like, oh, I don't want to help, radio, blah, 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 blah. Dude, hone in on what happened. You know, like, to me, they didn't hone in on it. They just, they went kind of as far away from it as possible. And they're like, yeah, Thor's going through something. No, he's going through something. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't like, oh, dude, he had a bad day at the office. No, because he didn't aim for the head, he lost everything. Everything. And, like, that's a big thing on him. You know what I mean? Obviously, you see him spiral out of control after Ragnarok for a minute. And they just did him dirty in that way. I feel like even if you went the whole fat Thor route, okay, let's explore it then. Let's actually get a dialogue of Thor talking about it. Or, you know what I mean? Maybe even an internal dialogue of him talking to himself about it. Or, like, flashbacks. Something that gives us something that is like, holy shit, this is really affecting our favorite characters that we've grown up watching, Like, I wanted more and I needed more from Endgame, and it didn't give me more. It felt like, boom, we have all this crazy stuff going on. Boom, here's everybody back. Boom, you know what I mean? Oh, and by the way, Iron Man and Captain America at the end, they do pass on, right? Like, that's okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, where is everything before that? You know what I mean? Where is all the anger and frustration from these characters? Like, we see in the beginning Captain America going to like a meeting. You know what I mean? Like, and he's sitting there struggling with the fact that he lost his friends. Then it's never talked about again. Like, after that, they never talk about it again. There's no gravity to it. Those are real conversations that could have led to not only a big scope film like Endgame, but also could have encompassed something more, right? And could have led to generations being able to watch that movie and pick something up from it and be like, holy shit, like, these people went through something, you know what I mean, making this film, and this was a real part of their day-to-day life, and this was, my favorite character is struggling in this, like, big time, and they hone in on it, and they talk about it. Like, to me, man, it felt like it let down more than just me as a fan. It let down the little kid in me who used to struggle with things, you know what I mean, and used to struggle with depression. And now it's like, oh, cool, they just put him in a fat suit, and everybody knows Chris Hemsworth is like absolutely shredded. And he's just playing Fortnite off in the background, and he's drunk as shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason behind that. Let's just not slap that label on him. You know what I mean? Like, let's explore it. And they refuse to do so. So for me, it was literally the most 5 out of 10 ever. They had really, really highs, and they had really, really lows, in my opinion, in Phase 3. Like, it was about as flatline as you can get because of the peaks and the valleys constantly with Phase 3. And that's just me. You hit your high of highs with, I keep forgetting the
Infinity
name.
War?
Infinity War. And then you hit your lowest of lows with Endgame, in my opinion. Because it let down in so many departments for me. You know what I mean? Like, as a hero fan, as a fan of seeing that kind of stuff, and maybe that's just me. Maybe that's why I love it so much, is because of those types of stories. And that's also probably why, because Batman is my favorite superhero, because it's constantly a battle with himself, and there's a lot of darker imagery that goes on in the DCU, and that's something that we've talked about before. But to me, man, it didn't hit on the gravity of what was actually transpiring after Infinity War. Like, to me.
Well, now that you say that, you know, I do think back and kind of wish they kind of did it like a trilogy. You know what I mean? Where there was 3, and Infinity War was, you know, the peak where they've just lost everybody. You know what I mean? But the second movie they could have done a 2.5 hour, 3 hour movie of just the whole world just kind of fucked. You know what I mean? They could have extended, Hawkeye, Ronin, right? They could have extended that just a little bit more to see, just getting more invested. Not saying I wasn't, because I mean, watching him kill everybody was fucking. It was good. It was real good, and I wanted more. But again, he just lost his whole fucking family. You know what I mean? And like you said, they should have maybe made a right in the middle between Infinity War and Endgame. The absolute 3 hours of emotional struggle that each of the Avengers were going through, and little glimpses of where the world's at. You know what I mean? And just like you said, Captain America going to a meeting. Let's push on that a little bit more. He's trying to get help of figuring out what to do. This guy was in charge. This guy was he played a leader role. And there's no one to lead. There's no one to lead anymore, so You know, and then you've got Black Widow. She's kind of just still working, but not really anything to work with because she's waiting for everybody to come back.
Even Iron Man, right, Jacko? Iron Man, we see in the beginning of the film, he's lost in space and he's lost all hope for like society and everything altogether. And automatically he's just like, well, there is an idea. Well, Ant-Man, we do have something. And it's like, let's expand upon this.
Yeah.
The visions that he's had for the past several years, you know what I mean, that you've been hitting on, is here. And he's scared. And this is somebody who has been portrayed as nothing if not confident in himself at all times. You know what I mean? And he is in a wheelchair, and he's got like this anorexic look to him. And you know what I mean? He's telling Captain America, do it your fucking self, basically. Like, right to his face. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, they're all in a room together like, let's go, team. We got a great plan here. Expand upon that. That's all I'm like.
The fourth Thor movie could have at least been a whole emotional roller coaster of Thor's process of going through this whole thing, of losing all his people, getting depressed, getting drunk, trying to get rid of the world, trying to get rid of him, like the thoughts of losing everything. That could have been a whole movie. They go from two serious ones to a funny one, back to a serious one, and then it could have actually reshaped where they go with Thor at that point. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, you're right. There would have been a lot of great topic and content if they pushed on where the world was at when it got wiped. Now, we got little glimpses of that, obviously through the beginning of Endgame, but when you speak like that, it kind of makes me want more.
And mind you, Jacko and Zeus, shortly after that movie released, not crazy, but semi-shortly after that movie released, we had the COVID pandemic, right? That could have been a movie
crazy
that helped a lot of people through that. Because it speaks about isolation. It speaks about, you know what I mean? It speaks about a lot of those inner demons that you're fighting that you don't always talk about. And you know what I mean? And there's a lot that they could have done with that film that would have meant something to a lot of people. And they still could have given it the PG-13 rating. You still could have had that crazy cool fight. You know what I mean? It still could have been everything that you wanted in that final movie. Just take it more seriously is all I'm asking. Like, that's all to me.
I definitely see what you're saying. Like, there's 100% validity to what you're saying. And, I agree to a very certain extent about Endgame as a whole. But I do also agree, because kind of like what Jacko said, you make a very good point that there was a lot of potential wasted in that 5-year gap, right? Because we see the aftermath of Endgame probably a few weeks after the events of Endgame. It's the start of, weeks after Infinity War is the start of Endgame. Leads up into them killing Thanos. And then we have a 5-year time jump. To be honest, we could have had that 5 years, or we could have had that little section, that first 10-15 minutes of the movie, could have had that at the end of Infinity War. And then at the start of Endgame, it's the 5 years later, right? That would have been fine. Because what's in between Infinity War and Endgame? What did we get? We got Ant-Man and the Wasp, which was a very subpar movie. That whole purpose of it was to tell you, hey, Ant-Man is going to save the day. He's in a different realm. He's going to pop out of there because of a rat. He's going to save the day. And then we got Captain Marvel, another subpar movie. And again, during one of the worst times in recent history, right? With the pandemic shutting everything down, everyone's looking for escapism to the max. And this could have been it, especially with the way Endgame and Infinity War was going. We had the wasted potential of Ronan. Ronan, first of all, fantastic character. Love the mantle being passed down in the comics. I thought Hawkeye being Ronan, the first version here, was fantastic, was doing such a good job. And instead of a Captain Marvel movie, we should have had a Ronan movie. Instead of Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, we should have had a Ronan movie, right? Like, just explore. And I was a huge advocate of this because it seemed like it was something they were going to do but canceled. because exploring his downfall from being Hawkeye and being a retired Hawkeye to coming out of retirement, because people are like what happens in any dystopian or end of the world movie. The villains rise up in that vacuum of order, and they take its place. And he goes down that route only to find out that it's dirtier and bloodier than anything he's done before. And he has to go back to his OG training way before S.H.I.E.L.D. or at the start of S.H.I.E.L.D. where he was an assassin. Like, he has to be a Ronin. Like, that could have been such a good storyline to follow. Like, I agree. But I was about to go on a tangent. I'm going to stop myself.
Instead, we got 3 minutes of him crying on Black Widow's shoulder.
To be fair, the stuff we got to see of Ronin was sick as frick. Even in the Hawkeye show, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Sick as frick. Like, that's the worst part. Potential, and it's kind of phase 3. Potential's there. Where to go. But we're going to go ahead and move on to phase 4 here. I think we only have phase 4 and then 5. And then that's going to be it here. Because I think we're currently in phase 6.
Yeah.
But phase 4 consisted of, and again, this is in like no particular order, I think. Maybe it is. We had WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Disney Plus series is for both the Black Widow movie, Loki Season 1, What If, the series, What If Season 1, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings movie, the Eternals movie, Hawkeye series, Spider-Man No Way Home, the Moon Knight series, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, the Miss Marvel series, Thor Love and Thunder, She-Hulk Attorney at Law series, the Werewolf by Night special presentation, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which is in this 4th phase here. Who started off last time? Did I start? I started off the last phase, right? So I'm going to give Lucky this last phase here, or this current phase. What is your thoughts on phase 4? Your hot takes, spicy opinions.
This is where we get into the really big negatives for the MCU. This is where it goes from potential, like you just said, Zeus, to okay, what exactly are we doing, right? You know what I mean? What is the new direction? Because when you're a big corporation like Marvel, the expectation is when you go through something such as Endgame and Infinity War, you already have a plan set in place for what takes place afterwards, right? And this is where we get to a section where it feels like there's no plan put into place. You know, there's Wakanda Forever. I enjoyed. I think they did as well as you could do for losing Chadwick Boseman. Again, rest in peace to Chadwick. There's a lot that went into that, and you could tell they really put their heart and soul into that. So I don't have any qualms with that. I love Namor as well as the villain. It felt very befitting. The She-Hulk series, this is where we get into the series and stuff too, where it's like very hit or miss. I enjoyed Loki season 1. I enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier season 1. WandaVision was okay. You know, it wasn't the craziest thing ever, but it wasn't terrible. You know, the rewatchability is kind of iffy on it. But like the She-Hulk series, Moon Knight, I think, is one of the most underrated series that you could have in the MCU. I loved everything about Oscar Isaac and that entire character, just being like getting to see a glimpse of what multiple personality disorder looks like and how that's kind of handled within his world. It's almost like Moon Knight is a character within a character. You know what I mean? Like it felt very contained, but also a part of something bigger, right? So that's what I loved about that. But like, dude, it just feels it felt so sporadic. Like phase 4. I don't know if this is the same way with you guys, but it was like this show is about this, but they don't do this, and you know what I mean? And it's like this person's dealing with this. It's like everything kind of broke off in phase 4, basically, where everybody kind of goes back to this contained space. You know what I mean? That they're dealing with their stuff in. But nobody, again, we don't deal with anything that just happened. You know what I mean? Like it's like, hey guys, everything's back to normal, and we're gonna throw a lot of shit at you and do whatever. And then the Spider-Man movie came out, and everybody got really excited about it. And the first time watching it, it's obviously a lot of fan service, and it's cool to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield come back and all that kind of stuff. But like when I watched it a second time, man, it's just not that good of a movie. Like
Thank you.
Like Green Goblin. I like Green Goblin. I think the rest of the villains were throwaways. It felt like they really were just relying upon Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and then they kind of also they turned Doctor Strange into like the reset button of the MCU, or like the save button, where it's like, hey, if I fuck up, like I just call up Doctor Strange, and you know what I mean. Doctor Strange he can rewind us, so you know what I mean, reset us basically. And it's like, no, you fucked up. Like Tom Holland in that movie seriously fucked up. Like it's bad. It's not good at all. But like Doctor Strange is like, I'll handle it, and just started doing circles and shit. You know what I mean? Like that's his whole thing basically. So to me, it's too hit or miss to really give it a positive grade. And it's too sporadic to feel like it's a part of a bigger universe to me. So I give it like a 3 or a 4. Like this is where it really went downhill for me. You had some bright spots in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Moon Knight, but they started to rely on fan service, because it's like everybody went to the theater to go see Thanos, right, and to go see the big fights. Okay, well, like, we don't really have a story made now, so let's just shove, you know what I mean, like, Sony shit, and let's shove this shit, and we're also gonna hint at Tom Hardy's Venom in the movie, but nothing happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, dude, there was far too much going on, and there needs to be a contained, like, idea, a train of thought going forward. You know what I mean? We can't just pull shit out of our ass 24/7 and expect everything to be cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's what happened, in my opinion. It's like a 3. It's not good in my opinion.
That's fair. Jacko, what you think?
I mean, I can agree with a lot of points that Lucky's has said. I feel like Phase 4 is an abundance of random things. You know what I mean? I mean, we're dropping from Endgame here, and it was pretty fucking serious. Yeah, I mean, at least the story was, right? Now, I liked. Let's start off with the TV shows, and then I'll get with the movies. So we're not. Again, I'm gonna say I'm not gonna get to all of them, but you never know. I might. Let's as a whole. Let's go with the TV shows.
Okay.
I really liked them. I mean, there was some that were lighthearted, funny, witty kind of things, you know what I mean? Like, again, hot take, I guess, I loved Miss Marvel. I know a lot of people didn't. I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people just couldn't figure out how to put themselves in those shoes. But let me tell you, if you didn't go to school, I understand. But if you went to school, it's so simple to put your feet in these shoes here. Is you're a young child in high school. It's exactly what we were, you know what I mean? We envisioned these superheroes being these biggest fucking entities that we've ever seen, and we just admire them so much that we want to be one. And here's this little girl's opportunity to be one, you know, the family legacy thing, I kind of got lost in all that, but the fact that, she looked up to these superheroes and wanted to be one, and wanted to be part of it at all, you know what I mean? And I didn't even watch this with my kids, and I fucking enjoyed it. I think I forget the actress's name, but I think she portrayed, a young, silly superhero that just, did some stupid things because she didn't know how to be a superhero, you know what I mean? And I think it was good. She-Hulk, again, a lot of hate, and I get maybe it shouldn't have been part of anything really. If this was just some show that wasn't part of the MCU, I found it kind of, it's like a sitcom kind of funny kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like I'm watching Modern Family or something, you know what I mean? Like it had its moments. Hate on it all you want, you know what I mean? It was funny. Love and Thunder. I didn't even get into the other shows yet. Hold on a second.
No, you just jumped the gun.
I jumped the gun because I saw it right here and I got it. Like extreme hate for it already.
You're like, oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that for a second. But Moon Knight, again, I think that was one of the biggest highlights of the TV shows. It was the best TV show out of them all, for sure. Like you said, I mean, the split personalities and stuff. I mean, now what Lucky was saying about the end game holy thing, the fucking going through these like mental health and all this other stuff. This is where it hit. You know what I mean? This is what we were looking for between the end game and Infinity War. We got that with Moon Knight. You know what I mean? Was it enough? No, but it sufficed with what we wanted. You know what I mean? Like, it was insane. Like, it was such a good way of just showing this guy is fucked. But we get to see him manage it. We get to see him go through it and adapt to it and use it to his advantage and fail from it. And there was so much in that season that I can't wait for more. I think there's rumors they have.
There's rumors that they're filming.
Yeah, so we'll see. Loki, I mean, I thought that was probably the second best one out of them all. I liked how it turned out. I mean, it gave us Loki like the MCU didn't. Loki barely was a piece of the MCU, let's be honest. I mean, as much as I really wanted him to be, he was in a few movies and then he died. That was it. And that's unfortunate. I mean, maybe he's another one that got the shit end of the stick. We saw him go through his family turmoil as well, but he died. He fucking died. And that was it. So I'm glad we got to see at least a different version of Loki, but brought him into a different view, different version where, we can see him a little bit more human, as we can say. He falls in love with himself. I mean, if I was Loki, well, I probably would have fucked myself anyways. But anyways,
I was wondering where you're going with that, Jacko.
Well, you know where I'm going with it.
Gosh.
Anyways, well, let's move on. WandaVision was cool. Whatever. The Falcon Winter Soldier was cool too. Let's go to the movies real quick. Black Widow. I think it was completely fucking unnecessary, and it was very, very out of place. I mean, you don't make a solo movie after that main character had already died in the main story. It just doesn't make sense. You should have gave it to us earlier. You know what I mean? And even then, was it worth it? I mean, we saw her a lot with, the Iron Man movies as well. She was very, involved in, I think, which one was it? The second one?
2.
Yeah. So, we got a little bit of that. Eternals. I gotta say, and like Lucky said earlier, No Way Home was amazing when it first came out. It was amazing. It was fan service. It was great. I've always wanted another Andrew Garfield appearance of some sort. I gotta go. Eternals, I think, is probably the best one out of this phase.
Let's go.
I honestly, and it gets a lot of hate. I'm gonna ask you to go rewatch it now. You know what I mean? It's talk about all the other MC movies that brought so many superheroes all into one, made it work, whatever. These were like, how many were there? 10 people? 10 people who we had no fucking clue who these people were. We couldn't have given two shits about. But somehow they made us care. And each one of them were super different from the other. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't have given us a decent group of people who were very different that came together and kicked ass. I think in their roles individually and together when it came to the fighting sequences and stuff. And Yeah, I, honestly, and it's crazy because I never really thought at first I would say that, but now the years have gone by, and it's probably the golden goose egg out of this whole fucking phase right now. Let me tell you. And No Way Home is those blinders. No Way Home is the blinders because of the fan service. You know what I mean? And the Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, and Andrew Garfield coming together, and it's like, yeah, we got 3 fucking Spider-Mans. Let's go.
They
Doctor
deal
Strange.
with a lot of, like, I was just saying, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
deals with a lot of, like, it reminds me of the Sandman show for DC, where it's like it delves a lot into people who are above even your favorite heroes in terms of skill. Like, they're their own entity, but like they're trying to understand society, which on second watch, to your point, Jacko, it kind of digs into that a little bit about how the Eternals coexist with anxiety and how they kind of society. My bad. They coexist with society and how they kind of feel out of touch and out of place with society. How I feel like a god should, right? Or like people that are above,
For sure.
or should kind of have that dilemma. And that's where I think that's where they hit that in Eternals, is like they're above everything. You know what I mean? They're above the genocides, and they're above the wars, and they're above even the Thanoses and stuff. Like, to them, they're trying to understand, why do these people even care? Like, they're ants. You know what I mean? But at the same time, why?
Like, it's a different type. Like, that's what I really enjoyed about it. Like, now, like, I mean, I think enough time over time, you've kind of broken down different reasons why you like it, right? And it's become more apparent. There's more reasons to like it than hate it. And it's a different hierarchy. You know what I mean? And it's bringing them to life, going, yeah, there's different tiers of these, entities that have superpowers that kind of rule over this universe as well, that are also super fucking human, dude. Like, they have emotions, they have relationships, you know what I mean? They have, different genders, you know what I mean? Where they're just like, that I can't remember her name, but she was confused with love, you know what I mean? And like,
was it Thena?
I can't remember her name.
No, not Thena, because that was Angelina Jolie's character.
She was small.
Oh, the kid! I can't remember her name.
I know. I can't remember her name either. Look, guys, regardless, we love this movie. We don't have to remember their names.
It's also like 2 a.m. for us, so forgive us. We're recording this very late.
For sure. But anyways, like I said, I will stand out, though, and say that I loved Hawkeye, the TV show, as well. I think, and the reason why I liked some of these ground level TV shows is exactly how I said it. It's ground level. And as much as I say this, the whole phase was so random. We took a break from all of this galaxy and universe and titans and all these other things that were just out of our minds kind of situations, and brought us back down to the ground, where it's like, here is some ground level shit that you can probably more relate to. You know what I mean? And that's where Hawkeye came in. You know what I mean? And it was just like, he's weathered. He's like half done, dude, and he's looking for somebody to possibly train. Here comes Kate Bishop, also cute as hell. It's just, it makes me feel good to see that, because we know that some of our biggest Avenger superheroes, again, are bringing it back down to mental health and physical health. You know what I mean? These guys aren't perfect. They can't be superheroes forever. They also go through real life shit. He's got ice on both his knees. You know what I mean? He's losing hearing in his ears. Like, he's not going to be able to do this for a very long time. And I think that's where we start getting more feeling and more connection to some of these characters, which I will say maybe a little too late. I don't know. That's the thing, right? We're on phase 4, you know, and maybe this could have been a little sooner. But you know, I think getting these little tiny connections now is it's okay, but again, might be a little too late.
Honestly, I mean, you guys kind of hit the nail in the coffin with it being very sporadic, right? One thing I could say to define this phase is the most potential. The most potential. That's what I can say. Because I'm going to try... Hold on, Jacko, you want to say something?
I just completely forgot.
Yeah.
That the one thing I wanted to hate on the most.
You missed it. I was actually waiting, but I gave a pause there because I thought you were reliving it.
And can we all just get together after Zeus is done talking and collectively speak
I'll bring it up. I'll just bring
that movie? Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Don't worry. Because we're going to trash it. No, but one thing I'll say is I'm going to try to not go through each individual point here. It's just going to be difficult because there's a lot to talk about. But I'll say WandaVision was the start of me hating the MCU. Not because the show is garbage. I don't like the show. That's a hot take. A lot of people like it. I don't like it. I thought it was creative in the beginning. I thought it was unique in the beginning. I was thinking how, like, we were kind of going with the House of M type of storyline here, which is a crazy storyline if you don't know in the comics, where Scarlet Witch, because she's such a powerful mutant, she says no more mutants, and the entire reality is altered because of this. So I thought we were going to do something similar here, where she's making people alive that should be dead, creating life that should not be created, breaking the fabric of reality, right? And we all, and I know I'm not the only one, we all thought, all right, the big bad here is Mephisto. There was so many freaking hints that Mephisto is the big bad. And I think Jonathan Majors as Kang is great. I thought that was great. I think Kang, he's a fantastic villain. But I think if you want to kind of keep things ground level, if you will, kind of bring in a different aspect of the MCU, Mephisto would be a very nice change of pace. That opens up the supernatural side of things, right? That opens way to a lot more potential with storylines and the ratings of shows, which we kind of get into later. But the fact that it was teased so much that we were getting Mephisto, and then at the end, it was Agatha. And I'm like, all right, so Agatha, she works directly with Mephisto. So that means we're still getting Mephisto. And the creators are like, no, we never had that in mind. And I'm like, how do you tease a character and then not have that in mind at all, and then have his number 2 as the villain? That's where I got so pissed. Also, the way Monica got her powers was also kind of stupid, not gonna lie. I mean, I liked Monica as a character. I like a lot of the characters and actors in the show, don't get me wrong, but Monica getting her powers because she touched the force field is the dumbest thing ever. Or going through the force field, because people have gone through the force field and didn't get powers, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, I don't know. That made no sense to me. And her powers aren't exactly supernatural, but then it kind of is weird because Wanda is like, is she a witch? Is her power supernatural? Is it cosmic since it's based off of the cube? So then if it is cosmic, but she does spells, does that mean that, like, there's just so much confusion with it. But I did like that we got Sword. I was thinking, all right, Sword's the replacement for S.H.I.E.L.D., but then they kind of just killed it because the leader of Sword, it was also a not good guy either, because good guys are actually bad guys. I don't know. It was dumb. A lot of stupid stuff in that show. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I loved it. I freaking loved it. I hated the fact, like, that storyline with that ginger kid. I can't remember her name, but that group, stupidest thing ever. Take that out. Show was still fantastic. Like, that show was dumb. I just love the fact that show, and kind of like what you guys were mentioning, to follow the theme of this phase, it dealt with the aftermath. It dealt with not just mental health, especially with Winter Soldier, but the repercussions of actions, right? Winter Soldier's going through his redemption arc here. Sam is having to deal with the weight of responsibility that comes with the shield, learning the history behind it. We get Isaiah Thomas in the MCU, which is cool. Like, and it delved into the political, but not in a very cringe or forceful way. It dealt it in a very real way that no matter your viewpoints, you're still interested. You're still 100% like, yo, what the frick? You know what I'm saying? Because in most movies, and this is just a general sense, it's never done well. And the way they did this was so good. And I don't think politics should be in these kinds of stories. But again, this was one of those where it was just done well. And we also got a comic accurate suit for Cap, for the new Cap. Looks freaking dope. I mean, he loses it in the new movie, but he's still got it in the show. Black Widow was garbage. I'm not garbage. Literally everything about that was garbage. Loki season 1, don't like. I think that show was garbage. Not gonna lie. Loki should just stay dead at this point. Even though it's an alternate universe Loki, it's just dumb. TVA is a cool concept, but the show is boring, and the story is essentially pointless. Although season 2 is not bad, season 1 just sucked. It's just still boring. I literally get bored watching Loki. That's just me. That's a hot take. Everyone loves and freaking simps over that show. I don't like it. What If, also garbage. Garbage animation. Stupid what if scenarios that nobody's ever thought of or really was interested in except for like the last 2 or 3 episodes. And it was just lame. And it wasn't even a what if storyline. They were trying to make their own MCU universe in this what if universe, which just kind of defeats the purpose of a what if. Because what if comics were never trying to connect to each other. So it was just so dumb. Like the What If series was so dumb, and I just hate the animation. Like, if you're gonna do 3D animation, Dave Filoni still works for Disney. He's right next door. Y'all can get the man. He's done Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch. He can do good 3D animation. This sucked. That's that. Shang-Chi. Go ahead, Jacko.
No, I was just saying, like, again, this is the what if it was something that should have never been part of the MCU and should have just been a separate entity of, hey, we had some fun. We had some fun creating something. I think the biggest, shitty part is I'm pretty sure it's fucking canon. Which is stupid, to be honest. Like this,
every Marvel entity is canon in the MCU multiverse.
I know, and as enjoyable as that sounds, when you break it down, there's some certain things that would have been just cool as a standalone fun thing they did. I know we haven't done too many animations that you guys have been want to be into. We had some fun with this one. Go watch it. You know what I mean? Like, maybe with that mentality, it might have been in like a little bit less shittier. It would have just been like, yeah, watch that animation. It was all right. But because it's a part of it all, it's like, fuck, man, fuck that shit, dude. No.
It's kind of like a double whammy.
We're already getting lost in this whole everything else. That definitely doesn't need to be part of it.
It's such a curveball, too, because we're getting like a common trend with these, like the content that's come out. It's all very serious, right? And like WandaVision, it deals with serious topics with the loss and grief and how people deal with it. And that's fine. That's great. I loved how they dealt with it. And Scarlet Witch is a very complex character who is very damaged for a lot of her time in Marvel. So we see that crack in her shield. I mean, we saw it in Civil War, or I'm sorry, in Infinity War when Vision died, but we see it more here. Falcon and Winter Soldier is dealing with the weight of responsibilities and the repercussions of your actions, right? Black Widow deals with the consequences of making a garbage movie. Loki season 1 deals with, I don't know, just it's a lot of serious stuff here. And then What If, it's kind of serious, not really, kind of humorous, but not really. And all we're really here is we're honestly only here to watch Jeffrey Wright narrate everything. Because why else are we watching the show and not to listen to that guy narrate? Like, let's be honest. And then the Ultron fight at the end. That was really it. I don't think anybody ever cared about 90% of the season, unless it was Jeffrey Wright narrating and the Ultron fight.
Yeah.
I also said I wasn't going to go through everything, but I can't not go through everything now. So.
It's hard not to, man.
Shang-Chi was so good, but so bad. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal that line from you, Lucky, but I loved the action, right? I loved the dive into the Chinese mythology, right? Like the different aspect or other realm that's available in the MCU that we didn't know about. And I like that we finally got to see a more comic accurate Mandarin. I don't like how we dealt with his character, though, and I don't like how the 10 rings were 10 bracelets. It was the dumbest thing in existence, and these bracelets were all freaking magnetically connected or something. Like there's some kind of Power Ranger wave morphers. It was the dumbest thing ever. Like, he had literal rings. That's why they're called rings, but he had ginormous freaking bracelets that he's over here bending gravity with. It was so dumb. And they made the Mandarin seem like, and this is a common trend, not only in this phase, but just in the MCU, where they make the Mandarin a bad guy, right? They make him a misunderstood hero. He's doing this to save his wife that he loves so much. That's why he's murdering everyone and, going to this other realm to just break open this evil deity that he doesn't realize is his wife. I'm like, dude, this is just so dumb. It was cool that we got to see Trevor in there, though. Like a nice little tie-in to that little short film that they came out with on the Iron Man 3 DVD set. That was cool, made that canon. But other than that, like, it was a lot of give and take with that movie. And the end credit scene was cool with Hulk and Wong kind of teasing either an Avengers or just a new group being formed. But we literally have not seen the signs of any of that. So that's cool. Eternals. AL. When you said that you liked Eternals, man, my heart skipped a beat. I have been a day one of Eternals ever since I saw the trailer. I was like, this movie is going to be fantastic. This movie is going to be so good. Everyone watches it. Tons of people hate it. I think half of those people that hate the movie are only hating it because they heard popular people hate it. Because the movie is really good. Not only is it the best way to... It's the best Avengers film without it being an Avengers film. Because there's like 8 to 10 characters plus, actually, who are all the main character in this movie that don't have their own solo movie to introduce you to. And yet we're all introduced them into a 2.5 hour, 245-minute movie that we get to see every single one of their powers, their storyline, personalities, and why we should like or dislike them, the deaths and the roles that each of them play and have played throughout history. And not only that, but we get to see the Celestials. We've been teased with like the Guardians of the Galaxy, the fact that Nowhere's the head of a Celestial, that Ego was a Celestial, but we get to see Erishram, I believe is how you pronounce his name, who is like just dope. Homie is just dope. And the fact that he exits and leaves via a black hole is the coolest thing ever. And then we also get Black Knight, played by Kit Harington, which is like just a huge tease to the fact that we're going to see some dope swordplay action. Mm-hmm. And just with the visuals actually being very good, the action scenes being fantastic, and the speedster scenes were the most unique and honestly the best speedster scenes I've ever seen. All the rest of them are just really bad CGI where they're doing this. Nah, dude. I don't even know how to describe that scene. It was just so good. And then the end credit scene where we get to hear Mahershala Ali's blade talk to Black Knight. Oh my gosh. That movie was just so good. I love that movie. I could watch that over and over. Hawkeye was a great show. I actually didn't like the beginning of it because it gave Kate Bishop like the cringiest origin for her passion for archery ever. And her mom was just so annoying. And I was thinking, oh, the bad guy's actually going to be the dad the whole time. That's going to be such a huge twist. To find out that it wasn't the dad, which was kind of weird. I'm like, all right, it's the stepdad, right? It's the stepdad. No, stepdad's an idiot. Which I'm like, why is he an idiot? I feel like that's a weird trope to have in there. The guy's an idiot. But it was cool that we saw Kingpin. The fact that we're bringing the Defenders is now canon into the MCU is freaking fantastic. We got to see Echo, which should not have her own show, but was a cool character. We get to see Hawkeye finally I say finally be deaf because that's how he is in the comics. But like we see him deal with that, right? It's like that's something that characters can connect to, considering how his character's always been deaf in the comics. So to see him not be that in the movies, I'm sure was very disheartening for certain people. So to see that in the show is really cool. Like to see him adjust to that, just have that there in general. And kind of like you said, Jacko, the fact that he's retiring. And the Ronin character, the costumes out there, the ghost of his past, the blemish he wants to wash away is the reason why he comes back. Yeah. And that was cool. That was so cool. And we also get to see Yelena. We got Yelena in there too. And the dynamic
she's the best part of Black Widow.
She was
right. She's the only best part about
her
that.
and Red
because now we
Guardian.
get
I
to see
enjoyed
her
Red
again.
Guardian.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Well, now you're giving us bigger reasons to rewatch it, but I don't know if I'm going
No,
to.
I was just saying those two. That's it. Don't rewatch it.
That's it.
No, but like Yelena and Kate Bishop's dynamic was absolutely perfect. They should literally have their own season 2 of Hawkeye just then.
Yeah,
honestly.
for sure.
It was so good. Spider-Man No Way
sitting
Home.
down eating mac and cheese,
Dude, not even that. Just them being roommates. I think them just being roommates would be the funniest thing ever. I would watch a sitcom of that.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home, honestly, not going to reiterate myself or what you guys said. It was nothing but fan service. The story wasn't that good. I mean, it didn't rely on anything built from Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man films, only on the success of the previous ones. This movie was garbage. You take out the fan service, what is it?
And the fact that he lost Aunt May, I think we were kind of always waiting. And I think, again, this is a good point to bring up, is that, this, we finally, this is the third movie, we finally get to see some sort of death come to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. When all the other Spider-Mans we got, the death happened before. You know what I mean? And that's kind of when everything kicked it off. You know what I mean? And so, it was sad to see her go, but I think that was a decent part in the movie where I think it should have came sooner. But
to be honest, it's weird because Uncle Ben's dead. They've talked about him like once or twice in each of the movies.
Barely.
But we never see any flashbacks. We don't see anything to prove that he existed. Like, for all I know, they could have done the dumbest thing ever, and Uncle Ben was actually just a fling, right? Like, that would have been terrible. But considering how Sony was doing with these movies, it's believable it was that. And then them killing Aunt May is kind of good and bad. Because Aunt May's character, I just like seeing her on screen, let's be honest. But
she was funny too, you know what I mean? She's a good humorous part of the movie.
And her dynamic with Happy Hogan was cool. I felt bad for the guy because she kind of led him on a bit with the whole summer fling thing at the end of, Far From Home? But nevertheless, also, the fact the movie does not have the smartest solution pisses me off, because all of this is caused because people know his identity, right? And here's another thing. This storyline was originally a Mephisto villain storyline. Mephisto was the one who came to Peter and said, I'm going to take away your love for Mary Jane and break you guys up in exchange for everyone forgetting Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So you and Mary Jane cannot be together ever. Like, period. That was the storyline, if I remember correctly. That's another Mephisto storyline that they teased in the MCU and then just replaced it with someone else. That was an irk. And the fact that, first of all, they could have easily, it was cool that Daredevil was in there, right? It was so cool that he was there as his lawyer. I thought that was just awesome. But it was something that we should have seen actually done in the court of law. It should have been something, first quarter of the movie, we see him actually get proven innocent, right? And then, because it's the multiversal saga, something happens. Literally, I don't care what. Something happens that brings in these other villains while he's dealing with a villain in his universe, right? And then he's kind of trying to maybe, I don't know, it could be anyone, but it's like teasing a Sinister Six, right? Because there's like 4 or 5 of these villains, which is kind of what happened here. But instead, these guys just start jumping in here for God knows what reason. And Peter, being the freaking idiot that he is, doesn't want to send them back to where they were. He wants to send them somewhere they can have a happy ending to, which causes conflict with Doctor Strange. And then at the end, Doctor Strange is like, all right, well, I could fix this all instead of what I did at the beginning. And, everyone's just going to forget. Everyone is going to forget that you're Peter Parker or Spider-Man on Earth or in the universe. Unclear. But why is that the only solution? Like, the plot of this was just so stupid. And yeah, William Dafoe's Green Goblin, goated. He was the highlight of this film. Sandman, was literally just a CGI set piece. Like,
he wasn't even there.
It wasn't even there. Same thing with Lizard. Lizard talked a little bit. That was it. Electro, cool. He doesn't look like the stupid blue smurf he does.
It's a plus they brought him back just to fix his suit.
Yeah,
and his
but
face.
that was it. That was it. And then even Dr. Octopus, which kind of doesn't make sense. Dr. Octopus was trying to be a good guy, but as soon as he got the tentacles on him, he was basically bad guy. He was basically bad guy up until the very end. So, but at that point he was drowning. I don't know. It was just so much stupidity and confusion with that movie. Moon Knight, goated. Honestly, don't really need to say much. It was the second best because I think Falcon the Winter Soldier is better, not by a lot, but it's better. I think Falcon Winter Soldier and Moon Knight were the best shows. Moon Knight was just so freaking good. Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness has its ups and downs. I won't lie, has its ups and downs. I think it deals with fan service / cameos way better than we've seen in previous MCU projects because it's literally in a different universe, right? So there's a potential that we could see them in the main sacred timeline, but there's also potential he's not, or they're not. You know, we get to see Reed Richards as John Krasinski, which is the most asked for fan cast I think I've ever seen, to be honest. Like, it was perfect. And we got Captain Carter. That was so cool. Haley Atwell. Anyways, that was cool.
Professor X.
Oh, dude. We got, I think it was X-Men 90 Professor X there. But I think it's a different version of that same one. Not too sure. But that was cool because he has the signature wheelchair and everything. Mm-hmm. And I honestly just liked Scarlet Witch as the villain. I think it was cool because, first of all, they made her look so cool in that movie. I'm not gonna lie.
She was hot.
I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
But, like, just as a villain, it grew what was made in WandaVision. Like, it took that seed and just went pop. You're a big boy now. And it was just so cool. And I think the ending was just kind of a little bit meh. But it was also just classic Sam Raimi, if we're being honest. And there was obviously a lot of aspects to this movie that were more horror, right? That were kind of a little bit more on the Evil Dead franchisey that Marvel kind of tried to limit because I guess they didn't want to go rated R just yet. And I think, honestly, this could have been a really good rated R movie. Only thing I hate was the end credit scene with him opening his literal third eye, and then his love interest, who is Charlize Theron, just pops in there, and they just jump through a portal. That was the stupidest thing ever. None of that made sense. Does not explain anything. Doesn't tease anything. Honestly, I'm just hoping that Doctor Strange 3 is Mordo versus Doctor Strange, because we have yet to touch that storyline, and that was such a good one. Ms. Marvel, never watched, didn't interest me. Heard mixed reviews. Just didn't pique my interest. I never liked the Ms. Marvel character in the comics, I'll be completely honest. I'm like, this is just a ripoff of Mr. Fantastic. Quite literally. Same exact powers. Now she's a mutant. So that's cool, I guess. But, I mean, whatever. And then Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor: Love and Thunder. All your nipples are getting perked there, I could tell. All right, look. Thor: Love and Thunder. I'll give my viewpoints on this first. Trailer was so good. The trailer was so good. I'm like, Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. This is going to be the darkest movie MCU has ever made. This is going to be the coolest thing ever. And then the fact that Jane Thor is in it, we're going to deal with a serious storyline of her having to deal with cancer. And then obviously we're going to see maybe later on her love interest with Sam Wilson's Captain America, because that's what happens in the comics. That's going to be cool. This is going to be crazy. And we got Jack Squiddly Dick. Like, what? Yes, we touch on the storyline of cancer, right? It's a serious topic for sure. But I feel like it was completely glossed over. I think that should have been more of a highlight to this film, to be honest. Because there's a lot of people who have cancer, and I'm sure use the MCU franchise as an escapism. And this could have been the best opportunity for them to deal with that, and the fact that you can be your own superhero, that you are strong enough to beat whatever this is. Like, there's so many messages they could have told with this, and they didn't. Heck, you take the Jane section of this out of the picture, we have Gore the God Butcher, the His name's the God Butcher. What more do you want me to tell you? He has the Necro Sword, which, by the way, is the sword for King Null, who is the king of all symbiotes. That is a tease for Venom in the MCU. That's a tease of symbiotes in the MCU. So, I mean, to be honest, Spider-Man 3 could have been a rehash of the Sam Raimi trilogy, and instead of the No Way Home fiasco, it could have been a hint at Venom. They could have done that. I mean, they did do that at the end credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, but it could have been their own version, right? And I was like, that's cool. And then Gore's gonna go around killing deities. You know, maybe he's gonna kill someone close to. Maybe he kills King Valkyrie, right? No, they made King Valkyrie kind of like try to be cool. Honestly, her presence in the movie was literally nothing. You could take her out of the movie or even just have her as a cameo, and she would have the exact same impact. The CGI was the worst I've probably ever seen besides Black Widow in the MCU. And not only did the story, it was so cool for like a good 30, 45 minutes with Gore, honestly. But then after we get to see Zeus in the MCU, which was Russell Crowe as Zeus, I think it was just funny. I felt like that was a good nod to the Gladiator movie, right? After that is when things start to go downhill a lot more. Because they kind of trying to rekindle the love with Thor, and it just doesn't work that well. And then Gore's objective was not only to kill all the gods for revenge, but I guess to use them as a sacrifice or whatever to open up the portal or deity to get his wish, which was to bring his daughter back, which I was like, dude, no, that's where you lost me. What the frick? No, why? Why does everyone have to be a misunderstood hero or someone misunderstood? Just a broken good person going down a temporary dark path? No, some people are just bad. Some people turn down that alleyway of darkness and do not return. And I know it sounds effed up, but I'm so tired of seeing these glimmers of hope in people because some people can't be saved. There are villains in the Marvel and DC universe who you don't think have a shining light in them. They tried to do that with Thanos. Zack Snyder didn't even try to do that with Darkseid, so just letting you know those are two comparisons. But then at the end, he gives his daughter to the deity he's trying to kill throughout the entire movie, which makes no sense. Why? This is the guy you've been trying to kill the whole time. And there was no salvation there either. Also, why the frick were the kids trying to fight the freaking shadow things? I don't know. The other little monsters? That was dumb. I don't know. This movie was just so dumb, dude. Jacko, just talk.
No, it's Lucky's turn.
Oh, it's Lucky this time? All right, Lucky. Talk.
Oh, yeah, he's waiting. I can tell. I mean, I've been watching his face.
I'm just trying to I got flashbacks here.
I mean, it's the most pathetic MCU movie to date, Thor: Love and Thunder. You hit on basically all of it, Zeus, but I'm just going to reiterate that his name is Gore the God Butcher. And he gives his daughter to who? A god. At the very end of the movie, Christian Bale being Gore the God Butcher was fantastic. Like, and then to do that to his character is just, it's kind of mind-boggling to me that you would even hire Christian Bale for this role. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you could have put Jared Leto in there and it'd be A-okay. You know, like why are we hiring Christian Bale to, you know what I mean, to completely do a disservice to not only his acting ability, but to a beloved character like Gore the God Butcher. I mean, in the comics, like, Gore, you feel his pain, yes, because he lost his family and he lost everything. But that doesn't make him a good guy, right? Like, this is still, he hunts gods. Like, that's what he does, and he kills them, like, completely. The Necro Sword, symbiote, like, it's the whole thing. And don't worry about that. We also do not care about cancer in this movie at all. The big overlaying thing is that Thor, during everything that he's been going through, missed out on a lot of Jane's life, and to the point where Jane got diagnosed and she was looking for a way to beat cancer. Well, she kind of finds a way, but it's a give and a take, and it's supposed to be a very heartfelt story about how Thor is presented on a human level, which is what we were just talking about with Eternals, right? And instead of doing justice by that, they decide to poke fun and basically just be like, yeah, man, that kind of sucks. I'm a god. You are not a god, clearly. And you're going to die. Like, that's basically the entirety of the movie. And when he's not doing that, he's like, no, we'll figure out a way. Have you live with no type of explanation as humor, which, okay, we get the screaming goats, which was funny the first time or two, but 30 minutes into the movie, they're still screaming. You makes your ears bleed. Yeah, it's like that was awesome to see Russell Crowe as Zeus. Fantastic, cool. Like, what are we doing now? You know what I mean? Like, there's this whole big bad behind the scenes that we just don't care about whatsoever. And there was also this whole idea of like Thor's only loved one that he has left because he thinks Loki's dead, and like Jane, the person that we saw in the first Thor movie, is she's dying. Like, this is it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, at the end of the movie, you're gonna take this kid, and you're gonna pass the torch to this random kid to be, whatever. And the love of your life's dead, your brother's dead, and you're no longer overseeing anything that has to do with Asgard. It's just, to me, man, like you said, Zeus, it's a wasted opportunity once again. And this goes back to what happened in Endgame. I mean, literally, like this. It goes back to they shit the bed in representing Thor in the right way there, and they shit the bed in this one. You know what I mean? Like, hey, cool. I would not want to be cool with the Thor in the MCU right now. You know what I mean? He just fucking made fun of a chick with cancer the entire time, and then took this kid at the very end to be like a good guy, just so Taika Waititi could tell you he is a good guy. He did befriend the child. He's a good dude. That's basically what the film was. It was like, cool. Oh, and Gore is like misunderstood, good person at the end of the day. Yeah. Go ahead, Jacko. It's
one of the worst movies in the MCU. It's up there. It's up there. I honestly, and I like to consider myself an MCU fan, right? I always have been, and I probably will continue watching them, regardless if they're not good or not. I can't stop now. I just spent so much of my life fucking watching them.
It's good content to talk about.
And you know what? Now that I'm a content creator, it's business now.
It's business, of course.
It's business. I had never felt so confused after leaving an MCU movie, and I was just like, I don't know why or what this movie was really about at all. It was just super confusing. I mean, next up to one of the next the Marvels movie. I mean, that movie. Anyways,
we'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, Love and Thunder was garbage, dude. I mean, this, and we talked about it earlier, this probably, for me, was where Thor became the biggest joke. And this should have been a serious movie. It should have been a serious movie when it came to what happened to all. And we haven't seen Thor since. You know what I mean? And since Endgame, right? And it fucking flopped, dude. I don't know. Chris Hemsworth knows. That's pretty bad. That he knows that this movie was shit. and he is ashamed of it in a way. He still wants to continue being Thor, hopefully to, resurrect what happened. But at this point, man, I mean, again, we've said this. He's one of the characters the MCU completely fucking flopped. And it's unfortunate because he's a great character. But the screaming goats were fucking annoying. I'm pretty sure Thor wanted to bang Star-Lord. Which, it's fine, but like it just wasn't necessary.
I did not catch those vibes at all.
Right, it was just right at the beginning. Right at the beginning, when Star-Lord was there and they were both staring at each other's eyes, and
I think that was something different. I think it was something different.
No, you didn't catch that. Just like the Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
Oh my gosh, that was deliberate.
Yeah, there was just so much like we're talking about Gore the God Butcher. He just didn't seem like Gore the God Butcher. He just seemed like this weak peasant little man who didn't get his way, or nothing was working for him. You know what I mean? The government just didn't let him live the way he wanted to. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it was just lame, dude. It should have been crazy cool. It should have been insane. It should have been dark. It should have been Gore the God Butcher should have murdered everybody. That should have been at least 75% of the movie, was just showing how this character is so dark, and the power he wields, man. That fucking sword, dude, like one of the strongest weapons in the MCU, and it barely did anything. It's unfortunate. It was a complete joke of a movie, and that's really all I have to say.
Yeah, I think too, before I move on to finish this up here, finish phase 4. Because I think we have only a couple movies into phase 5, and then we're about done.
Yeah.
But,
killed Thor.
Say what?
I said you could have literally just killed Thor off in this movie too. Like you could have did him a really honorable death, where he has to die to, you know what I mean, to basically save the world from Gore and to save other gods from Gore's wrath, and do something very inspiring for the love of his life. And they were just nah, dude.
My thing too is they made Thor look so lame and pathetic and desperate, because one, he's clinging on to Jane way too much. They kind of split after Thor 2 for whatever reason, and that was addressed in Infinity War or Endgame, I can't remember, but it was addressed there, or Ragnarok actually. I think it was in Ragnarok. That's where it was addressed, and it made him seem like he's just this desperate guy that clings on to his exes for eternity, and he just needs them because he's not the issue. It's it was weird. He was clinging on to her so much for desperation. And it's kind of the same thing with Star-Lord. Star-Lord was trying to, there was that moment with him and the Guardians where there's they're genuinely having a family moment. And Thor's just desperate to be a part of it, which is something they could have delved into about how he's lost his family, how he misses being a part of the group, because the Avengers are gone, right? Most of the core members are dead or retired. They're no longer in it. So he doesn't have his family, his earthly or his Asgardian one anymore. He relinquished control of Asgard because that's never been Thor, or this version of Thor. That's something they could have delved into, but they didn't. They just were hey, he's weak and pathetic. There you go. And then even with Jane was just kind of just okay, yeah, sure. I don't even feel much of a connection between the two in this movie. And then when she died and she joined the Valkyries was kind of freaking weird. Because I'm so we just killed off Thor Jane, one of my favorite female characters. We're just gonna kill her off. That's cool.
They could have kept her, because we've been kind of teased with an all women fucking Avengers, which still kind of would have been cool at least once to see. You know, we saw it in Endgame where they all came together to fight, and like I think Thor Jane would have been a really cool asset to that.
I think under
I
certain
don't think it would have
circumstances,
happened, but I just think there could have been more to it rather than, you know, just dies.
We also got Hercules at the end credit scene. That for sure is going to be a huge conflict, because I know in the comics they beefed a ton before Hercules was like, "Oh, we're cool," and he became a part of the Avengers. So I hope, because Chris Hemsworth said he wants Thor 4 to be a more serious role. Like he's doing the Tom Holland route where he's not going to sign on unless the script's good, which is good for both of them because we've seen how the past movies have done their character. And if Thor 4 is a darker, more serious story, that means we'll probably get Hercules in there, but he won't be the main villain. He'll probably be just like the side one that kind of turns anti-hero good, which is, it's whatever, it happens. But then we'll probably get something else. But yeah, so much potential with this movie. And Christian Bale, fantastic actor, one of the GOATs. And he does not sign on to comic book roles unless it's good. I mean, he killed it with the Dark Knight trilogy, and Gore the God Butcher was so appealing that he had to get it, right? And he did, and Taika Waititi just said, "Thanks, fam." And that was it. Moving on here, because it is getting a bit late. We're going to kind of rush through these. She-Hulk, garbage. Just going to say it straight up. It was cool. We got Daredevil. They disrespected my man Scar with his terrible haircut. Don't know what that was all about. Also, completely ruining the Planet Hulk storyline once again by throwing it out the window and said, all of that happened behind the scenes. None of you guys got to see it. Here's my son. Okay. Werewolf by Night, I think, is one of the most underrated projects of the entire MCU. This special presentation is about a 45-minute film that released on Disney Plus on Halloween. You can watch it in color or in the noir version. I watched it in the noir version because that's when it released. Is so freaking good. It not only did Michael, I think it was Giacchino, direct, but he also produced it. It was his first directorial project. It was his directorial debut, and he did such a good job with it. Not only was it the storyline, it was just simple, but it was just classic, like old school horror, you know, with like the monsters and everything like that. But it was just so refreshing to watch, to be honest. We got to see Man-Thing, and he was cool. He was just so cool to see. And the transformation of Werewolf by Night, the fact that it was done literally without any CGI, it was just done right there, like how they did in the old school, was also fantastic. I just loved that. It brought in the supernatural more. And it's kind of like the trend with this phase. I know this is the start of the multiversal saga, but they've done way more supernatural stuff than they have multiversal, in my opinion. And it kind of shows. Like, this one was just so good. Honestly, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's such a good watch. Watch it in noir first, though. Wakanda Forever, it was good. It was really good. I really enjoyed that movie, especially compared to the first one. I thought it was a fantastic homage and a thank you to Chadwick Boseman. Namor. Oh, Namor was so good. And then the actor that played him was fantastic. And the fact that at the end, it shows that he did everything that happened was all part of his plan, and that this is going, like, there's another route that it just showed that he's not a good guy. Like, this dude is doing things deliberately because he is smart. Like, that's one thing I liked, was they didn't make Namor seem like a stupid character who just turns good. He still has plans. Like, this was all according to his plan. And that was cool. Shuri's, like, spirit, like, ancestors that were talking to her, which wasn't the actual Panthers, it was Killmonger, was dope as frick, because I believe that's what happens in the comics. I saw it coming, but everyone who were in the theaters was just like, gasp. I'm like, you guys didn't see that coming? Come on, guys. You ain't seen no Marvel movies before? But Ironheart, garbage, trash, shouldn't be in the movie, shouldn't be in the MCU, replace her. And then we got the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Didn't really watch that, to be honest. It's Kevin Bacon in there. They're trying to do Christmas things, whatever. That wraps up Phase 4. We're going to go ahead and just kind of blaze through Phase 5 here, because it's not exactly done. We're in Phase 5. But we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, What If Season 2, and Echo. Upcoming would be Deadpool and Wolverine as the next project on this phase. So, a couple of projects here to start us off. Jacko, what you thinking? How are your... You got any hot takes here? Any spicy opinions for this phase? Or the start of this phase?
Yeah, the Marvels was shit.
I don't even know if that's a hot take.
No, it's not a hot take. Everybody understands. Everybody agrees. It's fucking terrible. And this coming from the guy who liked the Miss Marvel TV show. You know what I mean? This movie just fucking ruined that for me, to be honest. Captain Marvel, she was lame in it. Rambo, whatever the fuck her name is, that was stupid too.
I love that end credit scenes.
Okay, the end credit scene probably was the best part, because it introduces the mutants, right? And it's like, oh shit, okay, here we go. But it was just like, dude, like this fucking movie, why didn't you just make it a musical? Like, if that's what it was, like, just make it a fucking musical. And I know it was just one planet, dude. I know it was just one part that was musical, but honestly, the movie probably would have been better. Let's be real. No, it was... I will give it one thing. The dynamic between the three was entertaining enough to keep me watching the whole movie. Again, I don't really like to waste money, so I probably wouldn't have left anyways. But yeah, it was bad. It was bad. They shouldn't have done it. What else we got? We got Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yeah. I loved it. I still feel like number 1 was my favorite. And then it goes number 2, it was my second favorite, and number 3 is my third favorite between them all. But again, Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy is one of the best trilogies out of them all, right? It's but yeah, it was good. And Rocket's story, but this only built more upset with me, because I was like, I want to see more. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much more of Drax we can see. You know what I mean? There's this whole story of his life that would have been really more interesting to see as well. Going further into the more of the Guardians of the Galaxy lore, if there was going to be more, I think there's a Star-Lord solo movie working at some point, or rumors anyways. So I don't know what the future holds for Guardians of the Galaxy, but I would have loved to see more. Groot, again, there's still more to that, you know? But it was nice to see Rocket, because I did play the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale game, and that really dug deep into Rocket's story, and Drax's story, and it really got deep into a lot of people's story, actually, to be honest. And it was a really good game. It only lasted one season. I wish there was more, but anyways, Telltale went through their own thing. But that's where I was introduced to Rocket's story. So this one was nice to see it come to life, right? And what else did you say was in this phase?
Quantumania, Secret Invasion, Loki Season 2, What If Season 2, and Echo.
Right. Echo, I haven't even seen it yet. To be honest, right now, I am completely out of touch.
You're not missing anything.
No, and that's the thing. That's the problem, is I'm not missing anything. And I wish there was something to watch. I mean, Loki, I know you don't like it. I loved season 2. The finale alone was probably the best out of it all. It just brought Loki to God tier. You know what I mean? And that was that's fucking
dude. He was distracting me. What the frick?
I just see it on the side of my eye.
Dude, he's been doing that for like a good 2 to 3 pages. Like, I'm like, what is this man doing? Trying to seduce everybody? Jeez.
Yeah. So yeah, that last part was good. I haven't seen Echo. And this is the problem. I don't even remember what's in phase fucking 5, dude. Not like, I know it's not done yet. There's a lot to come with phase 5, which for me is the most exciting part, but what we've already been through with like Phase 5, I don't know, man. We've talked about it in another podcast as well, and for me, Deadpool and Wolverine will be my into the MCU again, you know, full-heartedly. I mean, I love Deadpool and I love Wolverine. It looks like a giant fan fest movie. I hope it does it justice, but also brings in. I hope it just brings it all back together. You know what I mean? Somehow, some way, we're not just loosely throwing movies and TV shows all over the place, hoping that something clicks and we hit a home run. You know what I mean? But yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine leading into, you know, Fantastic Four and all these other movies that are supposed to come, that I'm excited for. Right now, it's just complete lackluster right now. Yeah, it's my love for it right now is at a complete pause, and it's kind of like a rut. You know what I mean? And they've been in it for a while, but as a fan, I'm now in a rut on where I want to love it and where I don't want to love it, and will that love go on? Right? It's questionable. It's questionable. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's all I have to say, to be honest.
That's fair. That's fair. Look at what you got.
Well, yeah, I mean, 90% of this is trash. Quantumania was absolutely trash, in my opinion. Once again, they did MODOK terribly. He's just a big golden boy who ends up being misunderstood. They also make the little overarching main villain of the next Thanos, the main villain in a Quantumania movie, and I mean he gets his ass beat, like you know what I mean, like by Ant-Man the Wasp and Ant-Man's daughter, he gets his ass beat.
And some ants.
And some ants. Like this is supposed to be the next Thanos, everybody. Secondly, the Marvels was trash, terrible. To your point, Jacko, I enjoyed Miss Marvel, the television show. I thought it was a cool look into, you know, being a teenager, wanting to be a superhero, all that kind of fun stuff. And it just kind of ruined it for me. They barely touched on Rambo's, dealing with her mother and how she lost her because of the blip and stuff like that. And it didn't go into detail about anything important. The main villain we didn't care about at all. It wasn't that big of a fight. I mean, it's just, once again, we get into this very disjointed, discombobulated stuff going on that really doesn't lead into anything. Secret Invasion was one of my least favorite shows. It really didn't do anybody service. You know what I mean? Like, now we have I forget her name because of just how pointless this was, but she's like the most powerful character in the MCU now. Like the daughter of one of the Skrulls. It's literally like one of the most. She has everybody's power in the MCU basically, and it's like, what the hell? Like we got this in 6 episodes, you know, and now she's this massive like character that we're supposed to care about. What is going on? I've never met you before. What? You know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm going to add something into 5, Zeus. X-Men 97. It's my saving grace. And I know it's not, I know it's animated, right? But like,
it's not in the MCU, but
yeah, if we have What If, I'm going to go ahead and just put this here because it's my saving grace. X-Men 97 is the only Marvel project to date to still have a 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. And again, Rotten Tomatoes is not my favorite thing to judge a show or movie on, but it's really good. It's really that good to the point of I've talked to Zeus about it in depth. I mean, I love this show. I was not excited for it. I know on one of the podcasts, that's where the whole I don't care much comes from. was actually talking about X-Men 97, but it got me excited. I mean, they did a lot with the show. I love X-Men as well because I feel like it does deal with a lot of the humanity aspect of heroes, and it deals with its own form of politics, if that makes sense. Like, it's not a reflection. It can be used as a reflection of what's really happening, but it's also its own kind of telling of it. You know what I mean? And its own kind of issues that they deal with. So, I mean, I'm just going to throw it in there. I really hope, to your point, Jacko and Zeus, that Deadpool x Wolverine, they come through with something. Because, like, just don't make it nothing but fan fiction. You know what I mean? Like, don't make it nothing but, like, fan service. Give us something. Give us a story, because that's what I love about the Deadpool movies. And this is something that we've all been waiting for and has been hinted at for a really long time, is Ryan Reynolds wants to work with Hugh Jackman. They want to get back together and get the band together and do something. So I'm hoping that this really lives up to it, because of how awesome Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds were to, like, my childhood. You know what I mean? Like, watching Hugh Jackman play Wolverine was a massive part of my childhood. So to get to see him in a classic suit and get to see him next to Deadpool, it's just going to be awesome in itself. And hopefully we get the reveal of the MCU Wolverine in this film. That would be pretty sick. If I know it's not going to be Hugh, obviously, more than likely. You know, he's on his way out. This is more of a Deuces. You know, Logan was fantastic. The film Logan, that was kind of his I'm out type deal. But they're bringing him back for this, for a little MCU content. Cool, whatever. I want to see more X-Men. If we can get it, MCU saving grace is going to be, I'm telling you, Deadpool, the X-Men, right, and the Fantastic Four. If they can't get two of those three to hit, it's not. I truly feel like the MCU is dead, and we've talked about this before. But those are you have to hit on those things. You have to get the X-Men correct. You have to get Fantastic Four correct, and people will start to believe in you again if you hit on these things and make them comic accurate and make us care. You know what I mean? Like, that's not our job, is to just care about this because we like the comics or we like the old shows or whatever. No, you have to get us energized about it again. You know what I mean? You have to pull on those heartstrings. You have to make us care. So, like, whoever replaces Hugh Jackman has massive shoes to fill, and you know, you got to pull it off, bro. Like, whoever it is, you got to pull it off, because Wolverine's one of my favorite heroes ever. Like, can't wait for the game. You know what I mean? Can't wait for. I don't care if it's black leather. I don't care if it's yellow and blue or yellow and brown, dude. Wolvie's the guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's the Canadian dude who doesn't die, who goes after the Hulk in, like, the animated Wolverine versus the Hulk movie, which is sick, by the way. Like, he's a badass dude. I want to care about these characters, and that's what X-Men 97 did so well. And that's why I'm adding it in there, just like, fuck it. Because I'm like, dude, there has to be some kind of positive. The one positive I can take away so far is X-Men 97. And it's its own separate thing, which should tell you how bad it sucks right now. Is that, like, I'm relying on something that is not even in the live action realm world thing going on. Like, give me more of that. Give me season 2 of X-Men 97, like, now. That's the way I feel about it, dude. That's the only thing I'm holding on to. And that's just me.
Very, very valid points there. I guess my thoughts here is, well, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, right? We all can agree it was a fantastic movie. Very heartfelt. Some of the best storytelling Marvel's done in quite a long time, and really dealt with a lot of serious topics. And I think this was the best farewell for James Gunn, and also a big FU to Marvel, because he's like, I just made one of the best-selling movies you guys have had since Endgame, and now I'm going to go make movies for your rival because I'm in charge there. So I thought that was just, so nice. But that movie was so good. end credit scene, hinted at the next version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Star-Lord's back on Earth. Maybe he joins the Avengers or whatever new group's getting formed over there. But there's a lot of teases of the future for those characters. And I think that was the only good thing about this. To be honest, I used to X-Men 97. Dude, I got bored of that. I was 4 episodes in, and that was such a snooze fest. I'm like, there's so much happening here at once, but it's also so boring that I could not care about this show whatsoever. I know that is a hot take to take, but X-Men 97 is boring as frick, dude. It is, and I also just don't like the voice acting. I got over it after the first episode or two. I'm like, okay, I can get used to this, whatever. The story was just so sporadic and just dumb. Not dumb. It was just so boring. I'm sorry. It's not good. I don't see the hype. I'm sure everyone's just hyped because of the cameos or whatever, but whatever. We're moving on.
Dude, the stories, bro, they're so comic.
Hey, if you want to get Lucky's take, he did a whole review on the show. First season's up on YouTube right now, so check that review out if you really want to see some different opinions on the show. Quantumania had some of the biggest potential ever. This could have been the darkest. Here's a common trend with these. I don't know, the third installments or the new installments after Endgame could have been the darkest Ant-Man movie, darkest MCU movie since Endgame, with Kang coming in and just wrecking stuff, people dying. We got none of that. They made Kang the Conqueror, which is one of the more deadly versions of Kang, by the way. They made him lame. They made him lame. They made him so lame. No one died. MODOK was in there, but it wasn't even the actual MODOK. It was Yellow Jacket, just in a MODOK costume, essentially, who wasn't even a bad guy either. He's just back to his good old self, but he's not even his good self. He's basically like a servant for everyone, which was so dumb. And I'm like, dude, first of all, Michael Douglas said he wanted his character to die in that movie. And I could tell with the trailer, they wanted someone to die, or they thought someone was going to die. And no one died. I think it would have been cool if everyone was losing to Kang, Michael Douglas sacrificed himself, Hank Pym dies in there, Kang still is trapped in the quantum realm, but everyone escapes. That would have been a way better ending than whatever crap we got. I also don't like the fact that they recasted Cassie Lang for a younger version, and the only reason the original actress of the older Cassie Lang found out was on social media like everybody else, which is a big F you to her. So I'm like, and she sucks. The new Cassie Lang sucks. I'm not gonna lie. Her character sucks now. The acting just isn't that good, and she's just so lame. I never liked her as an actress personally. She's just so boring. And that's just like a common trend with this. Secret Invasion started off, first episode. Holy crap, that first episode had me on the edge of my seat. I'm like, I love espionage. I love spy movies and stuff. I love the James Bond movies. I love the Mission Impossible movies. Like, I'm all for espionage. But the thing is, with Secret Invasion, this is a giant event where the Skrulls are invading Earth. They're taking over several people because Earth is now in the middle of the Kree Skrull War. This was a giant event that impacts a lot of people. And we do get introduced to the Super Skrull, who steals the Fantastic Four's powers, by the way. But we got a Super Skrull who has the powers of everyone that was at the end battle, which, okay, sure. And then instead of just having the regular comic accurate Super Skrull or whatever, they kill him and replace him with a female version that's the exact same. Which I'm like, why? Why is there 2 Super Skrulls to begin with? That's so stupid. And the show just really went downhill after the first episode. It became less espionage, just really dumb and boring. And I don't think literally, so many people fell off after that second episode. Even after the third episode. Like, not many people actually watched the finale of Secret Invasion. Let's be honest, if you actually watched the entire show when it was coming out, episode to episode, I commend you. Because you're probably one of the only 5 people that did that on the entire planet. Loki Season 2, it was better than Season 1, but Marvel's garbage. Only thing they did was introduce the mutants, but it wasn't even the MCU mutants. They just went to a different universe. Because, why? I don't know. Nothing makes sense in this phase, or nothing makes sense in the MCU anymore. What If Season 2? Who the frick watches this garbage show? Anyways, Echo was actually kind of entertaining. Like, it was alright. Like, it was an entertaining show to watch. CGI got a little meh at certain points, but I was kind of, like, intrigued with the potential. I was really 100% mainly interested in Kingpin because he's in there the whole time, and his dynamic with Echo, which I can't remember her actual name, but I like that dynamic there, and the kind of like the build up between the build up with Mayor Kingpin, because Kingpin's going to go run for mayor in the Daredevil series. So there's a lot of that teasing here too. But other than that, like, some of the stuff was just kind of stupid. Like, her character was just really dumb. The fight scenes in the first episode were cool, but I mean, a lot of that show was just dumb. And the way she got her powers was also dumb. It's kind of cool, right? Kind of, but also pretty dumb. Doesn't make sense. And then she shares her powers with people, like her family, which I'm like, is that a thing? That don't make sense. But whatever. Kingpin, that's what I'm here for. So, yeah, honestly, I think Phase 5 is looking pretty rough. It has a really rough start. Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be the saving grace of the MCU. It's going to be a good movie. I know it's going to be a good movie. But the issue isn't that it's going to be a good movie. The issue is how is this going to impact the future of the MCU. So that is something we'll have to cover in another video. We are all getting very tired. This went way longer than we anticipated because it's about 3 or 4 in the morning, depending on your time zone here. But you can expect us to come back with another podcast episode about something like this. That's going to be it for us here at the Nerds and Squares podcast booth. I'm Captain Zeus. That was Lucky. I was going to say DP. That's Jacobite. He's a goat. And we're gonna catch you guys later. Go watch our other videos. Guys, like, subscribe, comment. Go follow everybody. Show love to the homies. You know, we take a lot of time doing this stuff, and it would mean a lot if you showed just a little bit of extra support. Even if it's a little kissy kiss in the comments, that's fine. I mean, something, you know, something works. But we'll catch you guys later. See ya.